Hello and welcome to NXTGEN Racing, the home of clean and fair sim racing for all. Hello, good evening and welcome ladies and gentlemen to the return to the racing and the NXTGEN Racing Touring Car Championship Season 10 as brought to you on the premier sim racing platform available only on PC, known as iRacing and proudly powered by Doble Motorcycles. That's right folks, we are back once again and we do apologise for the extended wait. We had to have a bit of an impromptu break and for good reason which we'll come to shortly, but after a 4-week gap rather than originally planned 2-week gap, we have made our way back to the racing and we're here today for round number 5 of 10. But where exactly have we made our way to? Well, we've made our way all the way down under to Australia for none other than the Mount Panorama Racing Circuit. More commonly referred to as Bathurst in reference to a local city, this circuit in the central tablelands of Australia is one not to be underestimated. At its core is a 3.86 mile course, which by day is home to regular commuting, but by race day it is one of those circuits where everything is cordoned off and it is a classic street circuit. Albeit when we think of street circuits we normally think of the likes of Monaco or St Petersburg, however this one is very unique in the fact the walls are always looming large and it runs its way up to, over and down from a mountain, hence named Mount Panorama or Mount Wooloo depending on the local dialect. But as the drivers get ready to take on this circuit today, they'll find that it's 23 corners offer very little respite. Indeed, to get things right around here you've got to be absolutely blazing quick in qualifying and you've got to be able to hold on to track position in the race, and with overtaking really relegated only to the straights that take drivers up to and down from the mountain, this could be one of those circuits where if you qualify well you're definitely going to set yourself up for success straight from the outset. But where are my manners? Allow me to welcome you all to this live broadcast from Circuit Side as you tune in tonight, the one only place you can catch all the racing action live from Circuit Side action each and every time. With that free places of course, because you can catch it on our 2 official NXTGEN Racing media channels. First and foremost being on YouTube, go to youtube.com and search for NXTGEN Racing. And we say hello to a few of you guys and girls in there, including none other than Jonathan Berry or Berry Racing. And well, if you're not following us on YouTube, you could be potentially tuning in via Facebook, and that's at facebook.com/groups/NXTGEN Racing. And welcome to you guys and girls tuning in via Facebook. And last but not least, we have the unofficial broadcast available on Twitch at twitch.tv/Paul Productions. And welcome to you guys and girls tuning in via Twitch. Now in the commentator booth, you have myself. My name is Paul Walsh from Paul Walsh Productions, and I'll be bringing you all your racing action as it unfolds, regardless of the media platform you're tuning in on. Indeed, there's no discrimination between media platforms, and we're making sure that you get the absolute premier content that you love each and every 2 weeks. But as we get ready to go racing today, this is an endurance round special, and therefore we have a slightly different schedule compared to our normal free race format, whereby it'd normally be 3 20-minute races, but instead here today we're going to be seeing a single 60-minute race. But to get to that, we must go for a qualifying session, 10 minutes in duration approximately, and we'll tell you all the rules and regulations of this qualifying session that's been modified, and it's due to get underway at 8 o'clock this evening, Greenwich Mean Time, that's GMT, or Universal Coordinate Time, UTC, after which then we'll be having a 5-minute warm-up break, and therefore we'll be getting the underway with the race at approximately what will be about 8:15. We said 8:10 there just to be certain and make sure that you don't miss out on what is going to be a hotly anticipated race, where of course it's worth all the points of a single race compared to what would be all the points over 3 individual races. So it's triple points up for grabs today, and that's why we've made the endurance race special come on back, because it was absolutely loved a few seasons ago. Indeed, we wouldn't quite go without it here in the NXTCC. As we get set and ready to go then, well, let's walk you through what you can expect today and what exactly has happened over the last 4 weeks, as we do say hello there to Dave J MTB, who's hoping to get a space on the grid next season. And Dave, well, do make sure you let us know in the official NXTGEN Racing Discord. We'll tell you a bit more about that later on today, how you can get into the Discord, because if you do want to put yourself on the reserve list or sign up towards the end of the season, in case we have some drivers drop out, we'd love to see you make your way onto the grid a little bit later on in the season when spaces do open up. But in terms of space, we haven't got too much space to delay and tarry, so therefore let's walk into our season calendar. And as we can see, we started all the way back on the 13th of January, and it's crazy to think we began at the Silverstone Circuit, the Legacy International layout there, back in round number 1 on the 13th of January. 2 weeks after that, we made our way to Japan for the Fuji International Speedway on the 27th of January, and on the 10th of February, we were in the US of A for the debut of the Portland International Raceway here in the NXTCC, and what a circuit it was there. But then last time out on the 24th of February, before we packed up our bags and had our mid-season break or impromptu one, we were in Italy, the Autodromo Nationale Monza, the Grand Prix layout, of course, without its first chicane, the infamous layout that we always love to run at. And what exactly did we see there exactly? Let's just refresh ourselves, given the fact it has been the best part of 4 weeks since we last saw the racing. Well, race number 1 saw Adam Delmont take a provisional pole early on, and it was looking to be his pole position. Albeit Wayne Douglas was able to bring the gap down quite sizably, but Adam Delmont in the end was able to dominate the qualifying session, and nobody could quite believe it given the slipstream-orientated nature of the circuit, and Delmont took that pole position very comfortably. However, there were some big incidents in the race, and perhaps the biggest one of them all being the incident between Wojciech Swirydowicz and Michael Lees into turn 1, which also collected Jamie Dory and Nick Clibbins. But your winner of that race was Wayne Douglas in the end, with his lighter car able to outrun what was Adam Delmont in the end. And meanwhile, we saw Luciano Witvoet stay behind him all the way to the finish. In the Pro-Am class, it was Ben Beddyworth who gradually made his way forward. And in the end, with some of his rivals end up in instance, he was able to take home the win. And in the Am class, it was Lewis Mason who was able to dominate the qualifying session at Monza. And he was able to convert that quite comfortably into a win. In race number 2, when even bigger incident happened on lap number 1, it did see the safety car brought out. And when we did return to the racing would see Luciano Witvoet take the first win of the day in his experience in Italy. And then it was in the Pro-Am class that Matthew Cheverton would spend the majority of the race fighting for second place in class with Ben Beddyworth. However, it all went wrong for Craig Tardock right at the end of the race, and finally Matthew Cheverton was promoted to Pro-Am victory. And in the M class, Marcel Fritsch in the end was able to gain massively from the open lap instant where others lost out, and he was the one who definitely brought about the win. And as for race number 3, with the partial reverse grid, we got to see another huge lap 1 incident, and it affected drivers all the way through the pack. And in the end, it was Joe Doble who was able to bring home a win in a long time since we've seen him taking over a win, but he was able to do it there. And then Alan McCann was your Pro-Am winner, and meanwhile in the M class it was Marcel Fritsch who was able to make it back-to-back victories, and he didn't waste his chance. And so that sets us up very nicely then coming into this round on the 24th of March. Now you can see there in big white letters we've had a mid-season break, an unexpected one, because the iRacing 2026 Season 2 TCR overhaul update. Indeed, we have had the most recent major update to the sim racing platform, an update that's completely overhauled the physics and the tyres of the touring car racing class machines. Indeed, gone are the cars that used to sit on all 4 wheels no matter how hard you chuck them into a corner. Now these are the true TCR beasts that we have been absolutely expecting and we love and adore, whether we're spectating them in real life or driving on the simulator. Yes, it does mean one thing has occurred. In the United Kingdom, we refer to it as cocking a wheel, whereby a rear wheel will lift now, the opposite rear wheel to the corner apex will lift when cars going at high enough speed or around the continent. Indeed, on the United States of America, for example, it's also referred to tripodding, where the car goes onto 3 wheels and it lifts the furthest wheel from the corner apex. And that means that these cars have really changed in their dynamics. These are now cars that have to be driven on their front end, and they're very loose over the rear end at higher speeds, or when you're really coming down into low-speed corners aggressively. What it's meant for the NXTCC organisations that we've had to do a lot of work behind the scenes in order to make sure that all of our fixed setups do work as expected. Remember, we do run predefined setups. This is a fixed setup series where the setups are provided by the NXTGEN Racing Administration, and we've had to update all the setups, the option setup, the wet weather setups, you name it, we've had to fix it. And we want to give a huge thank you not just to our lead administrator Jamie Dory, of which the NXTCC is his baby, the lead administrator, the owner of the series, and the fact that he's put in a tireless amount of work over the last 4 weeks in preparing the updated setups, but also a shout out to several big community members, but perhaps the biggest one of all, Wojciech Swirydowicz, for his contributions, spending a lot of sleepless nights alongside Jamie Dory getting the setups in place and making sure they were applicable in the wet and the dry. But indeed, thank you to every driver who's been joining the practice sessions over the last couple of weeks in assisting us in getting everything back up to speed here. And of course, we do have a newcomer in the grid as well in Formula Car. We've got the updated Gen 2 Audi RS3 LMS car, and that's had to go through a major set of reviews by our administration to make sure that we've got the right setups on the car to make it equally competitive alongside the existing Honda and also the 2 Hyundais, the Elantra and the Veloster. And so that brings us to this round then, round 5 of 10, the Mount Panorama Circuit. It's full out, of course, and it is our endurance race round as noted by the special star. But as we come into this round, where exactly do the standings stand after 4 rounds of racing? We begin with the overall Drivers' Championship. And here we can see Luciano Witvoet leads the way on 187 points. An advantage of 13 points, it's gradually growing, and the difference between himself and Wojciech Swirydowicz last time out was the fact they all went a bit wrong for Wojciech Swirydowicz in the final race of the day, and also in the opening race of the day, whereas for Luciano Witvoet, he was able to stream his way away and land was a huge set of results, albeit only a win in race number 2, not 3 out of 3 wins by any chance, but picking up the lion's share of the points, and that's why he's been able to pull away. For Swirydowicz, meanwhile, with the difficulties at the end of race number 1, it definitely meant he's had to really come back through the proceedings, albeit it was an incredible recovery drive in race number 2 to go from 32nd to 2nd place. Indeed, we couldn't quite believe it there, and the 5th place finish in race number 3 really meant he's picked up a good set of points on a recovery. Isaac Doble holding firm in 3rd there with 29 points scored, albeit a bit of a difficult day for himself after a struggle in qualifying. However, in the races, he was a much quicker driver by comparison and really smart with the draft. Indeed, the mini challenge driver in real life absolutely delivering when it came to driving his Honda. Logan McKenzie sits in 4th on 81 points, 10 ahead of both Joseph Doble and Jamie Dory. Then we do have Andrew Pike, Wayne Douglas, Ben Altrier, and Ben Bennyworth rounded off your top 10. You can see how close it is right now in the chase after Logan McKenzie. Indeed, whilst our top 3 are starting to abscond, the rest of the top 10 is definitely up for question. And that continues as we look from the 50 points of Ben Bennyworth to the none other than 50 points of Craig Twardock there, the leading Pro-Am driver, I should say, alongside Ben Bennyworth. And right now, both drivers there looking very strong, and Michael Lease only a further 3 points behind. Alex Meredith sits in 13th place ahead of Gavin Gardner. Then we do have Mikey Doble there, the defending champion, really having a difficult season thus far, and he'll be hoping that the change in the physics and tyre model for these machines has definitely served to shake things up, albeit we'll have to wait and see what he's going to be able to do as he sits ahead of Sam Exton, only by 3 points. And it's a further 2 to both Matthew Sheraton and Dan Mould, with your top 20 overall being rounded out by Lee Horn and Adam Delmont, both on 34 points. And then coming to the Pro-Am Drivers' Championship, and here with the points recalculated based on Pro-Am finishing positions in each and every race, Matthew Sheraton is the driver who leads, and that advantage now coming to him by a single point over Craig Twardock and converting only a further 2 points to Sam Exton. Now, the intrigue, of course, being that Matthew Sheraton had mixed results. So did Craig Twardock. So did Sam Exton. All 3 drivers there looked ferociously quick in Italy, but nobody could land a consistent haul. However, there was one driver who was very consistent, but he wasn't in your top 3, Ben Bennyworth, and he's leapt his way all the way to 4th there on 123 points. He's now the best part of 11 ahead of Stuart Wyniss, and you can understand right now that for Bennyworth, if he can land another result like that today, he'll definitely announce himself inside the top 3 fight. However, Wyniss will be trying to hunt him down for Track Scotland, as will Michael Lease, who'll be absolutely upset about the fact, of course, that in Italy, if it were not for the end of race 1 incident, he could have potentially gone on to take at least 2 wins out of 3 in the Pro-Am class, and it could be a 3rd place in the championship right now, not a 6th place instead. But still, what's happened. He's got to move on from that. Joe Coffin sits in 7th ahead of Alan McCain, and it's Nick Clemens and Benjamin Gregory completing your top 10. Outside the top 10 in the Pro-Am class, we do see from the 85 points of Gregory, it's then 76 points for Kieran Smart. He landed a good haul of points at Monza, indeed, went under the radar compared to most drivers, but indeed now getting closer and closer to the top 10, having missed what was round number 3 at Portland, and therefore considering that his drop score for the season. Andy Fox, well, he had a bit of better luck last time out as well. His luck is definitely turning his way. He's ahead of Carl Thompson, with Reese Watt and Matthew Jordan completing the top 15, and it's further 6 points back to Adam Wilson Weir. One to watch out for, because he finally landed a double-digit point score last time out. He's had a lot of frustration, a lot of bad luck so far this season, but he's a very promising driver at that. And then we do see Sam Smith ahead of Joshua Downing, with Phil McDougall and Jack Brown completing your top 20. Then coming to the AM class, last of our 3 drivers' championships, and as we see George Stone right now on 177 points, he's 3 ahead there, Marcel Fritsch. The big headline, of course, that for Stone, it all went a bit backwards, albeit he was able to land himself on the podium in race number 1 in the AM class, but after that was 2 6th place finishes. Marcel Fritsch, by comparison, 2 wins in the 5th place, and that's why he's picked up 51 points. He's getting closer to the very top. He's got a 13-point advantage over Lewis Mason. And Mason once again scoring well with a win in race number 1 and 9th in the 2nd, albeit if it were not for the incident at Ascari on lap number 1 of race number 2, he could have potentially taken all 3 wins in the AM class last time out in Italy, but it wasn't to be. But still, he's digging deep and moving forward. They do have a sizable gap of 24 points to Adrian Fritsch there, the younger member of the Fritsch family, the son of Marcel, and right now he sits in 4th place, 10 points ahead of Nigel Stock. Mark Hughes sits in 6th, his championship campaign definitely falling off the rails a little bit last time out. Indeed, 24 points, his lowest score so far. Then we do have Joseph Kenneth Wright sitting in 7th place, who's not had too much experience of the TCR car since the recent update to it, so therefore he's been very quickly learning it coming into tonight. Ahead of Michael Clough, and then we do see Sean Dobie and Roy Plummer completing that top 10. Outside the top 10 in 11th place on 77 points is Fraser Ostens, ahead of Sammy Ariba, and then it's going to be Andy Aldhouse, Scott Malcolm, Stephen Fry, Mark Sykes, Gabriel Yilmaz, Philip Harris, and Jack Giles, who complete your AM standings after 4 rounds. As for the team's championship, here's your top 10, and as we can see, Project 26 for Alpha Touring Challenge still still the dominant leaders. They've had the biggest score so far of all 4 rounds, and we'll get this continue to grow right now to the best tune of about 150 points. Well, right now, Double Sim Racers are really trying to make sure they break away from the rest of the field and try to get the upper hand in the battle with the Project 26 AlphaTauri Challenge team. NXTGEN Pink therefore sit in 3rd, and they are comfortably clear of the Sim Racing Collective Esports, who in turn are comfortably ahead of NXTGEN Green. So where are the fights right now? Well, it is the fight for 5th, because NXTGEN Green are only 4 points ahead of Full Tilt Motorsports, and it's a further, what is 8 points back to JW Motorsports. Team Big Lips, Track Scotland and iRacing Esports will crest Autosport complete that top 10, and from their 56 points, it's only result countback that separates them for NXTGEN Orange in 11th place. It's further 6 points back to Quatermass Motorsport, but they're ahead of Aztec Racing by 12 points, and we'd have Missionar and ORA Motorsports completing the top 15, and on single-digit points, it's CXR Project Black and GBRC, and yet score any points is WS Racing Esports ahead of NXTGEN Blue and Lumen Motorsports. So that's how the standings stand, and that is the story coming into this round. But now let's bring you up to speed with our circuit for today. As we can see, it's the wonderful Mount Panorama Circuit, located in the city of Bathurst in the state of New South Wales in Australia. And a huge thank you to iRacing.com for that absolutely brilliant simulator and the absurd and fantastic track maps that come with it. And as we can see, 23 quarters at its core, but a 2-dimensional image does not do justice to the fact that this is one of those circuits that is absolutely rampacked full of elevation change. And with elevation changes being to the best part of 130 metres from the lowest point of the circuit at Hell Corner, all the way to the very highest point at Skyline at turn number 11. But rather than tarry on a 2-dimensional circuit map there, indeed we know many of the corner names here, they're household names around the world, not just in Australia. It's probably better if we get you an on-board lap or two, ladies and gents, and we do go into qualifying, so that's exactly what we'll do. Now, as for our rules, because this is an endurance race round, we've got a very different set of rules today. Now, setup-wise, this is a fixed setup series. However, you'll notice that the option setup is not available for this round. Therefore, everyone is running the setup allocated to them, albeit success ballast still does apply. More on that very shortly. Now, for endurance race, the grid shall be set based on a closed qualifying session. It's coming up shortly with 2 flying laps. That means everybody has an isolated instance of the circuit on which they can go around. They have no other drivers visible to them, and therefore they are able to put 2 flying laps together plus their out lap in order to go for pole position. When we do go racing, each driver shall have 3 fast repairs available given the nature of the circuit, and we've got 3 times the race distance. 3 fast repairs are permitted rather than a normal 1. There is 1 mandatory pit stop over the race distance in which drivers must change at least 2 tyres. They can change all 4 if they want to, but they must change at least 2 tyres and remain stationary for at least 55 seconds. Now, that is to balance out the fact that we do success ballast based on fuel loads in the car, and if you could leave after just changing 2 tyres, then those running higher fuel loads would gain an unfair advantage because of the success ballast, so therefore that's why we have the mandatory 55 seconds. If you stop and you leave the pit lane after what is 55 seconds, you're absolutely fine. If you do it dead on 55 seconds, you're fine as well. Go 54.9 seconds, however, and you will be picking up a post-race time penalty, and it's going to be a huge one. The stewards are monitoring you, so that's why our drivers will need to make sure they've got the stopwatches at the ready. The pit stop must be taken as well within the designated pit window, which is between laps 8 and 12 inclusive. So that means at the end of lap 8, drivers may come into the pit lane, and they may date their pit stop all the way through to the end of lap number 12. Outside of that, the pit stop will not count, and therefore, if they don't do it, they will be subject to a very harsh post-race time penalty as well. Now, race stewarding, an independent race director is stewarding the races for track limit infringements and deployment of safety car as always, and racing incidents shall be reviewed post-round. Now, we can see success ballast is going to be applied today, and it will be applied on a race-by-race basis overall and in the Prime and AM classes as per usual. But what does it mean for the endurance round? What it means is we apply it based on the championship standings prior to the round, and we do not update it through and through. So therefore, you take all the ballast into qualifying, and you maintain it all the way through the race itself. And any drivers who are new to the series, I would not seen them on the grid before, shall run a newcomer success ballast, albeit we don't have any drivers that fall within that description, so therefore that does not apply. And here are our success ballast values if you do want to make a note of them, and indeed we'll hold them on the screen for about 5 seconds. So there's 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1, and done. So there's the success ballast values there, and let's make our way back to circuit side, ladies and gentlemen, because we want to see the race in action. And well, as all of our drivers get themselves very comfortably set, what is there to explore here in the final throes of this practice warm-up session? Well, firstly, we need to say hello to a few of you there in the chats, and don't be shy if you're in the Facebook or the Twitch chat right now. We definitely see Dave still there in the YouTube chat, and we're very happy to see him there. And well, Dave, glad we can have you with us. But if you are there right now and you do have access to your keyboard, don't be shy. Feel free to say hi, because at the end of the day, the only biting you will see will be biting on the brakes, and you're definitely going to see plenty of brake biting here today. as all of our drivers get themselves absolutely set and ready to go. But as they come charging on around right now, well, it's going to be one of those days where we can expect plenty of battling action without a doubt. But who exactly can we expect from our drivers? And the answer is going to be, well, Adam Wilson, we're definitely looking very quick here at the moment, and indeed in that Hyundai Veloster. But this is a car that we've seen plenty of times. We want to see a brand new car, many of you would say. And well, the good news is we definitely are going to see a brand new car, because we look to an Audi, and here is one of our new Audi RS3 LMS Gen 2 cars. This is the machine of Gavin Gardner in the number 11. Now this car, replacing the original Audi RS3, albeit our drivers who are running the Gen 1 car, they are permitted to run the Gen 1 car all the way to the end of the season if they so desire, but the recommendation will be to go to the Gen 2 car, just because of course it will have the better performance compared to its predecessor. But this car arriving in the real world racing scene, if my memory serves me correctly, in 2022, replacing the Audi RS3 TCR, which had been racing for the best part of over 7 years up to that point. And well, this car definitely having the futuristic looks that Audi have brought to the table over the last 5 years, and we look forward to seeing what Audi drivers are going to be able to do. But as we do see Wojciech Swirydowicz making his way down on an outlap here in the Alpha Touring change with Project 26 car. Well, one thing to note as well is that our drivers have had the option to change their car in the interluding period. However, they have been subject to a slightly reduced penalty if they opt to change their car, whereas previously the penalty was 50 points, if my memory serves me correctly, and it was reduced to 25 points coming into this round, given the fact that we have seen the complete physics and tyre overhaul of these TCR machines. So it does give our drivers a bit of an opportunity to think about how they can potentially change things up. However, they are normally recommended to stick with the car they started the season with, so that way they don't take the penalty points. But then again, if you think you're going to be a lot more comfortable on the newer car or a change of car, then why would you not go for it? But Joseph right here sticks with his Hyundai Elantra N, and well, that's no surprise there. Again, the fact I think he's feeling quite comfortable in this car at the moment, but we're feeling quite comfortable to say, ladies and gentlemen, that practice is now over, and it is time for our drivers to start to make their way to the pit lane and get set for 10 minutes of qualifying. But who exactly will put themselves on pole here and prove themselves to be king of the mountain over a single lap? Well, that's what we're about to find out, ladies and gentlemen, as it's time for 10 minutes of qualifying. So as qualifying starts to tick away, who exactly is going to be on pole? That's the first question of the day. Well, it's go, go, go for all of our drivers. They start to make their way out the pit lane, but of course, they all have an isolated instance of the circuit. So that means they don't need to see each other. All they need to do is see the apexes and absolutely nail it. But there will be plenty of pressure on our drivers because of the fact that they will only have 2 flying laps plus the out lap. And with 10 minutes, you don't have that long. You cannot dilly-dally it around. You've got to get the job done as quickly as you can. You can see Jamie Dory here making his way up the hill already in his new Gen 2 Audi RS3. And well, it's been very exciting with regards to this update for the TCRs, albeit it'll be very interesting qualifying here because these TCRs do also have a rather interesting cold tyre model now. These tyres, when they are cold, you cannot push them too hard. You've got to try and heat them up gradually in order to get the most out of the car. It's going to prove very tricky. That's exactly what we look forward to with regards to our drivers, seeing what they're going to be able to do in order to be able to get the job done. But as we do see Jamie Dory rolling his way on around, we look to the Honda of Owen Stitchbury. The Welshman here right now has definitely been proving more and more competitive in his debut season, and we look forward to seeing what he could do as part of his craft here today, albeit it's going to be one of those challenges whereby I think for Stitchbury, given the Honda and its tenacity typically for what is being better on the brakes and in the corners compared to its lack of speed on the straight, we might have to try and overcome that instead. But be interested to see whether the balance of performance has potentially shifted the Honda in a different direction, because that's also happened. We have got a whole new balance of performance for these cars. And as we say hello to Roger Pike in the Facebook chat, and well, it's good to be back, Roger. We do apologise for keeping yourself and Angie in a bit of suspense 2 weeks ago. Indeed, it was a bit unexpected and at short notice that we had to essentially put in a 2-week break, or an additional 2-week break on top of what we originally planned because of the iRacing update. And of course, Roger and Angie Pike, they're cheering on this man, the son of the pair. It is Andrew Pike here as he makes his way on down, weaving and winding his way with his Honda from the Sim Racing Collective, the FK8 Civic Type R, as the 57 driver makes his way on down Well, he's definitely right now looking to try and go all in for pole position, but we'll have to wait and see what he could do. He's normally a very good driver over longer race distances. It's one of his strengths for Pike is these endurance races. Remember, in the first endurance race we ever held at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, the best part of a year and a half ago, and there he did incredibly well. But the first ever winner of those races was, of course, Andy Fox. And Andy Fox here today, and with a different team. Back then, when he did take that win in Season 5, it was with Goldwing Motorsports. He was the prime winner overall at the Circuit Spa-Francorchamps, but here today, right now, he's back at the Prime class once again, but he's in the next-gen racing Hyundai Veloster instead. So onto a flying lap he goes. But as he does so, well, let's get on board with other drivers as they make their way onto a flying lap. In fact, we're going to be getting on board with the ORA Motorsports machine, our own Stitchbury, as he takes us around for a flying lap. So going through turn number 23 to go onto lap here and bring the car over to the right-hand side. As he does so, he'll straight line his way all the way up towards Hell's Corner at turn number 1. Onto the brakes there, just for the 50-meter board. Chuck the car into the corner, into third gear, and now stamp the throttle and power out. At this point, you've just got to hope that you've got on the exit as quickly as you possibly can, and head all the way up towards turn number 2. You can take a bit of a breather here up the mountain straight. Albeit I say a bit of a breather, he's going to need to take a very deep breath here, because very shortly this circuit is now going to go from what looks very straightforward into a handful. So looking to his left here for what will be Quarry Corner, and onto the brakes he'll go at the 100-meter board, coming all the way down to third gear, and as he rolls on out, letting the car roll all the way to the exit barrier, just avoiding it, now in towards the cutting of turns 3 and 4. Double left here, you go through turn 3 flat out, and then onto the brakes immediately, down to second gear, through the second part of the cutting, now lets the car roll out and goes through the right-hander. We're going through Griffin's Bend, and now going all the way up towards turn 6 and 7, right into left here, and now as he rolls his way between those apexes, the triple left that culminates in McPhillamy Park, as it go deep at 8 to let the car widen out to 9, balance the throttle there, and now in towards McPhillamy Park at turn number 10. Take plenty of apex curb on, will take plenty of entry curb, we should say, but no apex curb, as it'll propel the car outwards. Now over Skyline he'll go, dab the brakes here as you drop down the gearbox, coming all the way down from the highest point of the circuit in towards the dipper, and in second gear there now, full throttle up to third gear, short shifting to prevent front wheel spin. Now getting ready for Forest Elbow here, you have to brake through the right hand, the car dancing all over the place there. That's one of the bigger updates you can see there, and the fact that these cars were very planted originally breaking through that corner. Now they dance there as they tripod their way on through, and now make his way down the back straight and down Conrad here and completely flat out every step of the way now. He's only got one more lap after this one, so this is definitely going to be a banker lap, and then his next target will be to see how far he can go to improve upon it. But heading on down, and Johan Stitchbury absolutely making haste and hay here as he gets ready to go in towards that braking zone, but on tank as he goes all the way down to third gear, and as he does so, well, what's the story going to be now as he goes all the way out of the chase and in towards Murray's Bend? He'll be hoping this is going to be a good run, albeit the answer will be yes, no, maybe in terms of how good that run is. And we're coming out to that final corner. It has been a smooth lap, to be fair, and smooth normally does mean a great lap, as our overlay does update itself there. We do apologise for that in the background. Across that timeline, it puts Owen Stitchbury in 8th place, so good start to his qualifying session. However, now he's got a bit more work to do as he heads up the hill, but this time we're going to come off board, and we're going to leave into it for now. But an 8th there for his first flying lap, that is a very respectable lap at that. And of course, do keep in mind he's got a bit less success ballast in his car compared to others, and therefore he'll be feeling much more comfortable with regards to the way the car is to-ing and throwing. But looking to Adam Wilson-Weir meanwhile, as we see the Type 2 racing driver come through. He's currently the fastest of everybody out there after their first flying lap, albeit Wojciech Swirydowicz is currently on his first lap, almost done. As he comes down in towards the left-hander, well, let's see what he can do here in the number 80. And the answer is going to be, for his first lap of the board, well, no time, and it stays. In fact, no, it jumps up there. It takes a bit of time. It's a 2-minute 14.852. A lovely lap there. That puts him provisional pole, and Swirydowicz, even with all the weight in the car, well, still very quick driver out there. He's got the best part of 48 kilograms of success ballast in the Hyundai Elantra, the number 80, and we make it look as though there's no weight to the car at all. What about Luciano Witvoet? He's currently on his final flying lap. He has gone purple in the middle sector, so he is onto a much better lap, it would seem, here. And your number 60 driver thinking what he can do all the way to the very end. We had Andy Aldhouse end up in a moment of the barrier there as Gavin Gardner's also had to tow to the pit lane. as we do have Witvoet coming through the last couple of corners. Well, what's it going to be here as he rolls the van out? And the answer is going to be, well, he goes to second place at a 2 minute 14.932. So a good lap at that. However, it's not enough to dethrone his teammate from that provisional pole position. Can anybody else improve? Well, Kieran Smart improves to a 2 minute 15.459. So good effort there for the Track Scotland driver. Andrew Pint jumps up to 11th place, but that will be the end of his qualifying session. So he'll be starting just outside the top 10 at best. Albeit I think he would a bit more out of that, but understand the race is where we'll expect to see even more of him. In the AM pole position battle, well, it's currently Fraser Rostance who's looking the quickest of everybody, albeit Mark Kent has yet to get a lap on the board, and Mark Kent returning to the grid after a bit of an absence. Indeed, he had to withdraw a couple of seasons ago due to ill health, but it's great to see him back now, albeit in an all-black car today, and I do believe they're full Tilby Motorsport not applying livery to the car and opted to have him come in as the Dark Knight, if you will, albeit a bit of a Batman reference there, although I don't know if he's a Batman fan, to be fair. We'll have to wait and see where he's more Marvel or DC. But as he rolls one out right now, we can marvel at how quick he's going in the land of AC/DC. And well, the Australian band, of course, playing heavy metal for the best part of several decades, albeit I believe soon to retire, given the ages of the band members. But still, he's ready to rock, no doubt about it. And as he rolls his way over the hill, coming down for a skyline right now, looking good. Wojciech Swirydowicz, meanwhile, well, he's not improving on this lap. His only improvement has been in the very first sector, which is turn 1 in the exit. Otherwise, the rest of the lap has not been much of an improvement at all. So Swirydowicz heads towards the timeline here. In fact, I'll correct that. He's improved up to the cutting, and then he's not improved any further. So is he going to be able to make it further on that pole? It's a 2:14.852. He does improve by 1.5 tenths almost. A 2:14.712 there. An absolute monster of a lap. In fact, really pushing the envelope there to the best part of 2 tenths quicker than anybody else. And Witvoet may not be able to match him, but I can tell you one thing, it could be a front row for Project 26 with AlphaTauri Challenge. And Wojciech Swirydowicz doing an absolutely brilliant job, as Matthew Sheraton, meanwhile, making his way up the hill here in the Aztec racing car, albeit he's on a cool-down lap. We are still waiting for a couple of laps coming in. Sam Smith being one of them for Iris Esports with Crest Autosport. He's down in 33rd. He's currently the 18th fastest in the Pro-Am class, so he's definitely putting in a lot of work here. But the problem is right now, this is not paying off because he's the lowest placed of your drivers in this class at this time. We also do have Logan McKenzie and Nigel Stock with no laps to their name, and Nigel Stock's going to be starting from the back. Will so do Logan McKenzie as well. And well, as these drivers come towards the very end, Reece Watt out there, he's in the all red machine right now, and well, that car very red, no doubt about it. And I do wonder what exactly was the plan there with regards to the livery on the car for Reece Watt. I do think there that it might be that JWM Motorsport experimenting with a new paint scheme on the car as he makes way into the pit lane, so he does not improve either. So for Reece Watt, it does not work out, neither does it for Matthew Sheraton, as he's going to be started 22nd place at this time, or 13th on your Pro-Ams. And is anybody else out there on lap at the moment? The answer is no. So that is qualifying complete, ladies and gentlemen, with only 8 seconds to go, and it is going to be Wojciech Swirydowicz and Luciano Witvoet who lock out the front row, the 2 pros there for Project 26 AlphaTauri Challenge. And on row number 2, it's going to be Adam Wilson Weir who takes the Pro-Am pole position, and you have to go down to 18th place for Mark Kent, who was able to creep ahead of Fraser Rostance right at the end of the qualifying session. So good performance from them in the end, and well done to them all. And well, that is qualifying complete, ladies and gentlemen. But now, as we get ready to go racing, we of course do have a 5-minute warm-up session here, so drivers do get a little bit of a breather from at least driving, but we're not going to try and let them have too much of a breather, as in fact we're going to try and catch up with 1 or 2 other drivers just before we do go green flag racing. But who can we get a word with, I hear you ask? Well, we'll see what we can do, and in fact, you know what, I think we are going to catch up with the maestro himself, the 2-time champion of Jamie Dory. Bear with us, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll see if we can get a word from him in the interview room. And as we do get a patch through to Jamie Dory down in the paddock. Jamie, good evening to you. Just a quick word if you've got time.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So Jamie, of course, organiser of the series, 2-time champion as well. It's been an extra 2 weeks since we were meant to go racing, but I can imagine the operation you've had to put in with the community has been absolutely huge to get these cars ready for racing once again.
Oh yeah, with the overhaul, it's been absolutely crazy, the amount of adjustments with regards to setups and how the cars now behave. It's been something I didn't expect, but we've had to delay it by 2 weeks just to bring the racing as level, competitive and fair as we can do.
Oh, indeed. That's always what we want here at the NXTCC. And coming to yourself and the qualifying session, I mean, a decent lap out there. Were you happy with your lap?
Yeah, there or thereabouts. I'm still trying to get my head around the cars. Obviously, driving all of them with regards to setups and getting it all level. Um, I thought I'd go for the new Audi because I like the look of it. So I'm still learning. Every lap's different, trying to find brake biases. So I'll take a P8. I'm inside the top 10. That's the main thing.
Oh, indeed. So long as you're in the top 10, you can only go forward from there. Jamie, we wish you the best luck in the race, and we'll see you at the checkered flag.
Thanks a lot, Paul. Take care.
So here now from Jamie Dory, ladies and gentlemen. But I think there's one man we need to hear from in the Prime class. And, well, Berry Racing there absolutely nails it in the YouTube chat to say, let's have a chat to Adam Wilson-Weir. He's currently out there on circuit. And, well, I'm a bit scared to grab him whilst he's making his way up the hill. But let's try and grab a word with him and not scare him too much, ladies and gentlemen. So just give us a brief moment and we might be able to get a patch through to Adam's car. In fact, we can do so. And he's just making his way through what will be turns 5 and 6. Adam, just quickly cut into yourself in the car. Have you got time for a quick chat on the broadcast?
Yeah, I do indeed, Paul.
Adam, a very impressive pole lap in the Prime class. I believe 3rd overall. I mean, you must be proud of that lap.
Yeah, well, I think the tower models really benefit me coming from the GT3s, and you know, it's a track that GT3s running quite a lot, so I do have a lot of seat time here. But the race isn't over yet, so we just have to wait and see.
Oh, indeed, there's 60 minutes of racing ahead. But speaking of the new tyre model, of course, now these touring cars much more aggressive over the front end. What's been the biggest thing perhaps you've had to adjust to?
Honestly, the starts with the cold tires, you know, they're quite a lot harder to start, especially in the high-on days. But I mean, I think I've got the hang of it now. It's just really, you know, taking it easy in the start lap, and maybe like lap 2 or 3, that's when the starters starting to bite. It just feels a lot nicer at the start gripping into the track now, which I love. So.
Oh, fantastic. Well, Adam, we'll leave it there. Best luck in the race, and we'll see you at the checkered flag.
Perfect, thank you.
So here now, ladies and gentlemen, from Adam Wilson-Weir, and indeed, very excited for this, but saying that starting these cars now is an even bigger challenge. And let's see if we can grab a quick word from the man who's joined us today on the grid, Mark Kent. If we can grab a quick 30-second catch-up with him. Let's get the patch through to his car. Mark, good evening to you. Have you got time for a quick 30-second chat?
Yeah, sure, mate. Why not?
Mark, in 30 seconds, good to see you back on the grid. You've missed this by the looks of things.
A little bit, yes. Yeah, I have missed the TCRs on the Tuesday.
Oh, we've missed it. And to be fair, close between yourself and Fraser Rostance for pole position in AM. Can we expect a fight between the two of you in the race?
I'm not sure. I haven't raced some of these guys for a while, so I'm not too sure about other people's pace. But yeah, I think there's some battles that are going to happen in this one for sure.
Well, Mark, we wish you the best of luck with the battles ahead. We'll see you at the checkered flag.
Thanks, Paul.
So, ladies and gentlemen, hearing it from a selection of our drivers there. But with that, it's about time that we made our way away from them now. And indeed, it's time for us to go green flag racing, because the warm-up is complete. We've heard from 3 different perspectives there, a Pro, a Pro-Am, and an Am. But who exactly is going to put it all together and become victorious here today? Well, Bathurst is about to show us, because it is time for round number 5 of Season 10 of the NXTGEN Racing Touring Car Championship, the NXTCC, brought to you on iRacing, powered by Doble Motorcycles. And here is how they line up for our one and only endurance race. Taking pole position, it is Wojciech Swirydowicz there for Project 26 for Alpha Touring Challenge. The Polishman in the number 80 doing an absolutely brilliant job, taking pole position by 2 tenths in the end over his rivals, but he'll be joined on the front row by a driver he's very familiar with. It will be his teammate of none other than Luciano Witvoet. Then behind him on row number 2, it's going to be Adam Wilson-Weir, who takes pole position there for Type 2 racing. The Pro-Am pole sitter comes to be ahead of the nearest Pro-Am by the best part of a 10th. However, he does have the company of Gavin Garner starting 4th there for NXTGEN Pink. Joe Coffin starts in 5th for Team Big Lips, ahead of Stuart Winus of Track Scotland. And then we do have Lee Horn in 7th place there for NXTGEN Orange, just ahead of Jamie Dory. NXTGEN NXTGEN pink driver in 8th place. They're happy to be inside the top 10, but how can he go forward from there? Owen Stitchby gives them close company, and well, from them it will be none other than Kieran Smart, and it's the RA Motorsports and Track Scotland drivers who complete your top 10. Then outside of your top 10, we do have in 11th place there Phil McDougall for CXR Project Black, ahead of Andrew Pyatt for the Sim Racing Collective Esports. Andy Fox starts 13th for NextGen Orange, ahead of Sim Racing Collective Esports is Craig Twardock, and no respectable qualifying performance from him. And then we will have Ben Bennyworth in 15th place there for Quantum Mass Motorsport, ahead of Nick Clemens for iRacing Esports, powered by Crest Autosport. Ben Gregory starts in 17th place for Full Tilt Motorsport, ahead of Mark Kent, the AM pole sitter, who then was only able to steal away AM pole position ahead of Fraser Rostance for NextGen Blue by 3 thousandths. That's how close it was between the two of them. They seem to be in a bit of a postcode of their own. Alan McCain, we latched onto that postcode, a 13th behind in 20th place. And then from him, starting in 21st, it is Michael Lees for JW Motorsports, ahead of Matthew Sheraton for Aztec Racing. Those two separated by 23 thousandths. Adrian Fritsch starts 3rd in the AM class, a little bit ahead of the rest of the YAMs. Sam Exton joining him on the 12th row of the grid for the Primes of Team Big Lips. And then we do see Lewis Mason for Full Tilt Motorsport in 4th for the YAMs, 25th overall. He's got the company of Roy Plummer for NextGen Blue, ahead of Reese Watt for JW Motorsports, and Marcel Fritsch will complete your 14th row there for WS Racing Esports, with of course the heaviest ballast of them all in that AM class, the best part of 30 kilograms, and therefore he's got a tough task ahead of him to try and shed that weight. Carl Thompson starts 29th for GBRC, ahead of Joseph Wright for NextGen Blue. I think we'll be happy at that 7th place in the AM class in qualifying. He completes the top 30. And it's Sam Smith in 31st, ahead of GBRC's Mark Hughes. But the iRacing Esports, powered by Crest Autosport driver, will know this is not where he wanted to start, given the fact he's only got a couple of primes behind him, and it's all AMs surrounding him. Sean Dowie starts 33rd for ATEC Tech Racing, ahead of Joshua Downing for Type 2 Racing. And then William Kurtler starts 35th for Aztec Racing, ahead of Andy Aldhouse for GBRC. George Stone for Type 2 Racing is ahead of Logan McKinsey, a no qualifying lap set in 38th there for Project 26 Alpha Touring Challenge. And Nigel Stott will complete our starting order in 39th place. So iRacing Esports, powered by Crest Autosport. So 39 starters here today in Australia, ladies and gentlemen, but there can only be one winner at the end of the 60 minutes. But who exactly is going to be that winner? They're all itching to find out. We're itching to find out, of course, as we quickly look on board for Wojciech Swirydowicz. It is a short run down towards turn number 1. And if he can nail this start, will he be able to just break away, or will he find himself under pressure from his teammate Luciano Witvoet? Can anybody else get a lightning launch from behind? With all that and more, we're about to find out, ladies and gentlemen, as here come the lights. It's 1, it's 2, it's 3, it's 4, it's firing lights! And this endurance race is away. It's lights and away we go for round number 5 of Season 10 of the NXTCC. Wojciech Swirydowicz there. A bit of a slow start with Luciano Witvoet covering him on the outside. But Adam Wilson, we're almost getting on the inside for 2nd place. It doesn't quite work out. But meanwhile, all the field makes its way through in towards the opening bend here. All these drivers right now definitely looking to tussle early on. Adrian Fritsch, he's had a lightning start in the AM class. He's already up into the lead of the AMs into 20th place as they power the way along and up the mountain straight. But Stuart Wyness right now, the Scotsman here in the draft of Joe Coffin. But he's having to worry about Lee Horn looking up the inside of him. Onto the brakes they go. Adam Wilson Weir being looked at by another Gavin Gardner. Gardner having a lightning start there. Audi looking so quick in the acceleration stakes, as it always has. And meanwhile, Craig Twardock side by side here with Michael Lees. It's been a good start by so many drivers here, but now as we head onto the mountain, well, 2 wide. It's not going to be in the vocabulary for much longer. They will need to narrow it down. But who exactly is going to narrow it down the most, I hear you ask? Well, we see the all-red machine there of Reese Watt. Car into the barrier. That's Craig Twardock, but Twardock right now beached into the wall. He's out the way. And well, I don't mean that in a derogatory way, but the good news is he's not in the way to potentially cause a further incident, and that's what we want to see. And we do have in mind the fact that the stewarding here is going to be extremely strict, and our race director is going to be keeping a very keen eye on any big incidents, for the simple reason, ladies and gentlemen, if things do go on around the mountain, we need to react very quickly, as otherwise it could be carnage. But indeed, everyone survived the opening half of the lap so far, apart from Twardock. We're going to replay that when we can. Joseph Wright, meanwhile, he's on the back of Marcel Fritsch, looking for an opportunity into a skyline. That's not normally going to work. Oh, hold up, Andy Fox has turned the wrong way round there. That's coming down the hill. Couple of drivers get a little bit deep. They're still tussling and fighting, but they are all able to sneak through. Fox decides to tow in the N9. There's no way. And Nick Clemens has got a meatball flag. So therefore, I think Nick Clemens may have been caught up in some contact with Andy Fox, but we will find out very shortly what exactly has happened between them, if at all. It's been a bit of a question, but I'm here to say there may not have been contact between them. It may have been both drivers just getting it wrong of their own volition. But meanwhile, going to Lee Horn and Jamie Dory. And he's to exactly where he started this race, but coming down the hill and in towards the braking zone for the chase. Well, here goes Dory up the inside here. With Horn on the outside to inside, hopping over the curb. And as they do, well, right now, Lee Horn just riding that apex curb. But the problem is for him, he just gets a poor traction out the corner and he picks up a slowdown penalty for his track limit indiscretion. And therefore, Owen Stitchbury now is getting the battle of the Hondas. He's going to look around the outside. Can he make this move happen? The answer is going to be no. Stitchbury thinks about it, but his rival says, no, you don't. But Horn's going to have to burn that slowdown at sometime, otherwise that's going to be upgraded into a drive-through penalty. It'll be a stop and hold as well at that, so therefore that's a big loss if so, but he burns it just in time. But after one lap of racing, it's Wojciech Swirydowicz who leads ahead of Luciano Witvoet, followed by Adam Wilson-Weir, the Pro-Am leader. Gavin Garner sits in fourth ahead of Joe Coffin. Then it's Stuart Winus. That's going to be your top three of Pro-Am: Wilson-Weir, Coffin and Winus. And then we do have Dory in seventh ahead of Horn, followed by Stitchbury, who is just battling with Kieran Smart here for the back end of the top 10. Stitchbury tries to go up the inside of Horn. He'll get this done surely now as they make the way uphill through the right-hander of Griffin's Bend, and shortly he'll be heading towards Quarry Corner. I got them in the wrong order earlier on, I do apologise, but going in towards the cutting right now. Well, in the end, Lee Horn says to Andrew Pike, cut it out please, one at a time, and Pike's not able to find a way through. Meanwhile, back in the AM class, well, Mark Kent may not have had the best start, but he's now got himself into the lead of the class with Lewis Mason and Adrian Fritsch together. Fritsch looking to do battle at the inside, but he can't quite figure that one out, as it's going to be Sam Exton trying to poke his nose in there for Team Big Lips, and we ride on board. So now make his way through the quarters here, right into left he goes. And while number 22 driver here with the Rexy helmet, a wonderful helmet at that. Well, a tribute to AO Racing there, albeit Rexy currently having a bit of a nap after a bit of a difficult day at Daytona. And therefore it's Roxy doing the race at the 12 Hours of Sebring in the upcoming weekend. In fact, it's just happened, I believe. But meanwhile, Exton here getting very close on the exit out at Filmy Park and coming down the hill. Well, right now he can't quite find a way past the third place and run. And this is the problem. In the fact he's got all the pace over the mountain in a Honda that's definitely very agile with regards to its ability on the brakes and its driver as well. It's not just the car, it's the driver who's able to command the car. But the problem he's got here is the fact he's not able to find a way through it. And now coming out of Forest Elbow, well, whilst Adrian Fritsch gives his car the elbow to the barrier there, he's still got the traction in that Audi. And that Audi, you can see, look at the gap that opens up on the power here. That Audi is absolutely flying, even with the barrier contact. And that is why that Audi is going to prove so challenging to pass. And now for Sam Exton, he's going to potentially think about what might be a little bit of an undercut strategy here as soon as that pit window opens, or do the opposite at least. Joshua Downing, he started all the way back in 34th. He's up to 31st already. He's made some good progress. He's on the back of Craig Twardock, who has recovered the car after that moment at what was the cutting, albeit we're not quite sure what happened there. We will get a replay of that soon, we promise you that. But right now, he's only trying to keep things together as best he can. Not a happy moment, no doubt about it for those drivers. Albeit, of course, we're enjoying all the racing action here as they head on down. And well, there's a bit of cheeky peek there from Cole Thompson in the Tribute PTCC Super Touring era livery. Oh, hold up a second. Somebody's got it wrong. Roy Plum has had a bit of an off, and so there is none other than what is, I do believe, Sean Doby. And in fact, that's going to be a front bumper coming off the car there, Sam Smith. So I think Smith's been caught up a bit of contact, and well, that's why he has got a meatball flag there. So is Roy Plummer. So those two have had a bit of a talking to each other, and in the end, negotiations have broken down, and right now, bits of the cars are coming off here, but thankfully, the debris has been pushed away from the circuit, ladies and gentlemen. As they head up the hill here, and excuse me, I've got a bit of hair in my throat. I may have to cough in for a short moment, but hopefully not, because we do see two wide there. Smith right now trying to hold around the outside of William Kurtler. Carl going straight on. That's Sean Doby into the barrier. The barrier there is receiving the ATEC Tech Racing driver. Suspension collapse to the back end, and for Sean Doby, he's going to try and turn that around. He's going to need to tow that to the pits. There is no way he's going racing in that. I don't think the stewards will take too kindly to him if he stays there for much longer. But meanwhile, coming back to the front of the field, and Wojciech Swirydowicz, well, he started on pole. He's still leading after 2.5 laps, and right now he seems to be in control. But you can see here, your top 5 all together right now, and Stuart Winus just a further 1.7 seconds back and trying to stay nice and close. Albeit we're on the way down the hill. A bit of a brush of the barrier there for Gavin Garner, but nothing wrong with that. Now, as things do calm down for a brief moment, we're going to take a look back at some of the big moments from the start of this race, including that race starter course for none other than what was Adrian Fritsch. And here is the replay. So this was the start for Adrian Fritsch. We take a look back in time, all the way back here to the man who started in none other than what slot number, I do believe, 20. But as he got away, well, how exactly did he get such a good start? And well, in the end, it was a slow start there for Fraser Rostons, and so was for Mark Kent, although Kent looks like he almost got to the grass there. I wonder if Mark Kent and Fraser Rostons had a bit of a coming together when they went green flag racing. That's how Adrian Fritsch got the jump. This is what it looked like from Mark Kent's perspective. So as he went to go green flag racing, alternative camera angle here, and we get to see all three of the belligerents together. Revs were rising and the lights went out. A lot of front wheels been there for Mark Kent. Fraser Austin's just stalled off the line, and that is how Adrian Fritsch was able to get ahead of the two of them there. The door was open in the middle, and like Moses, was able to part the seas, but not for too long when Kent got back at him. Freddie Twildop, meanwhile, had this happen to him up at the cutting on lap number 1. So this was as the field made its way into the infamous double left. He was too wide there with one of the JW Motorsports cars, and that's what did the very sideways spin around. I think that was Michael Lees who's in contact with, and Twildop sent to the barrier, but that's where he was able to continue. He wasn't embedded in the barrier, he'd just been turned towards it, so he's actually got away with that, very luckily, the 200 driver. Andy Fox, meanwhile, we had this happen to Fox. He rolled his way over the mountain on the open lap as he came on down, rolling his way from Skyline, bouncing over the curb there. Oh, goodness me! Oh, and that was even worse there. Everyone did very well to react to that, but unfortunately, there was contact to one of the Irish Esports cars. I do believe that was the car of none other than Nick Clibbins that got picked up. This is what it looked like for Reece Watt, meanwhile, as he came all the way through and over the rise. So he's going to see this quite late, but how exactly did Watt react to it? So Fox is in the barrier right now, and in the end, everyone checked up. Unfortunately there, Watt could not get the car stopped in time, but thankfully he tapped the Team Big Lips car right on the back there and did no significant damage to it. So they got away with that one. It was Nick Clemens who was collected by Fox's car. We had this from Mark Hughes on lap number 2. This is where it went a bit wrong for the GBRC driver in this Primera dedicated livery car. And we'll tap on the rear of the cars. They made their way into turn 17. That was, I think, Nigel Stock tapping on the rear, and the RS3 driver going completely on around, and after that we waited to get the car turned around when he could. A lap later we had this for Sean Doby. This was coming up in towards Griffin's Bend, and as he made his way in towards the right-hander, what exactly happened? Turned on in. In fact, I think he was tapped on the rear there by the TSRC car, and then he got a double whammy from what was a GBRC car, Cole Thompson. So that was very unfortunate if so, but it did seem as though there's Sean Doby definitely getting a double pummeling from both drivers there, although I might be wrong about, I think that was Audi Aldhouse's car, in fact, not Cole Thompson's. And we had this for Roy Plummer only a bit later, so this was him running wide at Monfillery Park, and he did rejoin. There's a bit of drama here heading down the hill, and for Plummer there's already damage to the car, hit the barrier there. I think he already had suspension damage and it all went wrong. But back to your live racing we come, and as we do, there's still more to be done, ladies and gentlemen, no doubt about it. And our leaders, who you can see here, carried on their way. Remember, the pit window is not open at the moment, so they have to carry on at least for a little bit longer. As soon as we get onto lap number 8, that pit window will open for those who are on lap 8. Of course, if they're on lap 7 or below, they still need to wait until lap 8 before they're allowed to get that pit stop out the way. The fuel tank, if they're going at a full attack, I've been informed, for those running no success ballast in the car, they're expected to be able to take that fuel tank to the best part of around 10 to 11 laps. So some fuel saving. They could get a 12th lap in there, but that means that those with success ballast, of course, they have a much heavier car, but they do have a little bit more strategic flexibility without the requirement of fuel saving. So it all balances out in a way, as that's going to move on the inside there from Kieran Smart on Lee Horn. Lovely move from the Track Scotland driver. That's going to move him up the order quite rapidly, and Andrew Pike and Phil McDougall are all there together with him at the moment as we say hello to Whiskey Runners Racing. Good morning to you, good sir. And I do believe that is Daniel Fritz there, a resident of Australia, of course. Unfortunately not on the grid for this season due to the way the time zones work out, but I can tell you one thing, the Whiskey Runners guys, one of the most dedicated teams on the other side of the world in the NXTCC, and we're so happy to have you guys tuned in. Indeed, we miss seeing you guys out there, but it's always great to have you in the YouTube chat, and I hope you're all okay. You see Barry Racing there saying starts fully depend on how you use the clutch on the starts with RPMs and clutch use. And indeed, definitely some good technical observations there. We've had drivers mention about the fact having to balance those RPMs and dropping the clutch at the right time and how you feed the throttle in. So remember, launching the car from a standing start, it is not as simple as just press go. Indeed, these cars do have sequential shifters on them as well, so it makes them even more challenging. But meanwhile, as we do see a potential change of foot there, that is going to be Smart picking off the RA Motorsports Honda there of Owen Stitchbury. So Kieran Smart, after a bit of a slow start in a qualifying session which saw him start in 10th place, I'll tell you one thing right now, he's definitely going for it, but Stitchbury says, no, you don't, and he's going to keep the prime driver behind, but he outbrakes himself a little bit there. Now Smart getting around the outside. Can he get to the inside down towards turn 23? If he can, coming into Murray's Bend, he may get this job done, but meanwhile, you can see behind, that's going to be a fanning out there of all three cars. Lee Horn looks, but in the end, he can't quite make it work. There's contact between the two, and it sends them both sideways. Oh, and it goes wrong, and Stitchbury rejoins. He collects a couple more cars, and it triggers off a domino effect. effect there as multiple cars being picked up, albeit they're all on the inside now, so they're all out the way. A bit of a nasty instant there, no doubt about it, and well, it's all gone wrong for so many drivers there. I want to get a replay of that when we can. Lee Hornby looks like he's towed to the pit, so therefore he has been promoted to the top of our time out, although he has not taken the lead this race. We can promise you that, ladies and gentlemen. Definitely a big moment there for Lee Horn. And we'll have to get a replay of that when we can, because that was an incident that started off innocently and then it all went a bit too wrong. Albeit several drivers being collected, and that Andy Fox being one of them, Andrew Pike another. You've got to feel for Andy Fox and Pike. They were just in the scene at the right time, but they were in the wrong places to be able to be picked up by it rather than make the way through. But meanwhile, Alan McCain, he's all over the back of Benjamin Gregory here as they roll the way through the left-hander turns 3 and 4. Gregory right now keeping at bay as we look back for the rear of your 113 car for Full Tilt Motorsport. And what can Gregory do at this point other than just simply maintain his pace? Currently running in 5th in the Prime class, so he'd be very happy with that, given the facts the big points are up for grabs here. He has gained 5 places since the start of the class, 8 overall. Alan McCain on a very similar story, having gained 10 overall but 5 in class, so both drivers will be happy with their achievements, but they'll be thinking to themselves there's even more work to be done here if they want to chase down a potential podium. Although Gregory does have quite a bit of weight in the car, as we do remember correctly, and therefore that is going to hold him back a little bit, and that's why he's not able to perhaps catch up to Kieran Smart, who's absolutely flying. Lead of the AM class is on the back of this Prime group, as that's a bit of an effort from Michael Leach trying to look up the inside of Matthew Sheraton. In fact, I think that might have been a bit of misinterpretation under braking there from Leach. I think he carried too much speed, thinking that Sheraton would have been a bit further than he was. So a bit of a tap to the rear of Sheraton's car. They'll get away with it that time, as Mark Kent, meanwhile, definitely pushing on. And right now he's leaving the rest of the Yams behind little by little. Albeit, to be fair to Mark, he is the veteran of these cars. He has raced in the AM class and the Prime class on previous occasions, but he is AM on pace currently, albeit definitely towards the top end of AM today. Although you could say, with the way that Fraser Roston's matched him at the start in qualifying, that those two definitely try to be one class ahead at the moment. Meanwhile, Gavin Gardner looking at the inside here for 3rd place. And that's going through Hell Corner, and he gets the move done there, and Adam Wilson-Weir at least for now. But the way this is playing out, keep in mind the fact they've got a 1.2 second gap to the top 2. They won't fight too hard, but Joe Coffin now wants a piece of the action here as we ride aboard the Team Big Lips Honda. Well, he's going to try and look round the outside here, the track marshal, as he heads up towards turn number 2. But in the end, Wilson-Weir just simply puts it on at the outside and says to him, this isn't going to work. And Coffin says, right, well, this is going to work because he's going to get a better run out of 2 up towards 3. But looking around the outside here, and Joe Coffin right now has got to be thinking to himself one thing, which is, if you're going to do it, you need to do it quick, because otherwise this circuit is going to narrow very shortly, and there's going to be no way in at the end. They're heading all the way through turn 5 into 6 right now. Coffin definitely trying to stay there and stay well in the wheel tracks of the Prime leader. He wants that win for himself, but he's going to need to just take his time with this one. But further back to Jamie Doreen, Stuart Winus, there they are, and Winus right now the 3rd runner in the Prime class, putting on a good run thus far. Kieran Smart just behind, albeit that's not Smart. In fact, that is a car that is a lap down. That is Mark Hughes' GBRC Audi RS3 LMS. But it's with Hughes right now. It's one of those situations whereby all he can do is just keep pushing on and hope that things all do work out. But as our drivers make the way on through, for Mark Hughes, it's totally a bit of a frustrating race. But to be fair, he's one of those drivers who doesn't give up. He stays in it all the way to the very end. And that's why we absolutely love and respect his candor. As these drivers roll the way down the hill, well, we are getting closer and closer to the pit window. Indeed, once they've completed this lap, the pit window will open. As meanwhile, Coffin and Wilson-Weir, they've lost Gardner. Gardner's almost the 2nd clear at the moment, so this is going to be a battle for the Prime lead now. As they head in towards the chase, it's going to be too wide on entry. Coming on down, we get the closer carry here, and Coffin going around the outside to inside. He takes the lead of the class. I'm in a 4th place. His Team Big Lips is Coffin on the 136, and meanwhile, Wilson-Weir in the number 4. Well, he watches, he waits, and I think he's going to be thinking to himself at this point, okay, I don't need to beat him right now. I need to beat him at the end of the race, so therefore stay with him and don't do anything silly. I think that'd be the smart move, to be fair. There's been some smart racing between drivers as the pit window is now open, ladies and gents. We are into lap number 8, and it means at the end of this lap, our drivers can potentially choose to pit. Remember, it's laps 8 to 12 inclusive, so therefore, it does mean our drivers do have the best part of 5 laps in which to consider that pit stop. And as we mentioned earlier on, the base setup setup of these cars in terms of the fuel loads they have, drivers are expected to be able to do at least up to lap 10 on that fuel, if not lap 11, and with a bit of fuel saving they could even go the full 12 lap window. So it does mean there's a lot of strategic variety here, and a good pit stop at the end of this lap, if you go for the undercut, could prove to be important, as could the overcut. It's all going to come down, and that's going to be the big question mark. Remember, they are required to change at least 2 tyres. They can choose whichever tyres they want to change, and it's up to them if they want to go for all 4. And with a 55-second stationary stop, we will be keeping an eye on it. We do have the data here in our commentary booth as well, although it's not the data that our stewards will be using. They will be using a separate laser beam timing system in the pit lane, so therefore it does mean that our pit stop analysis may not be 100% accurate, so take it with a pinch of salt as to how long drivers do spend in the pit lane when we do announce it. But as these drivers roll the way on through, well, this is getting very close. So that's Twardok and Rostance. Rostance on the outside. Craig Twardok picks his way past. And credit where it's due to Craig Twardok. Given the fact it was all in the barrier at turn number 4 in the open lap, well, now on to lap number 8. He's already recovered from 35th to 18th. Twardok is flying out there. There was a 2:16.21 that previous lap. He is the 5th fastest driver out there behind our top 3. And then you've got Kieran Smart, who's just a little bit quicker than him. Otherwise, Twardok is absolutely flying. And it is impressive as he comes on down the hill. And we'll have to wait to see what he's going to be able to do, our number 200 driver, and whether he can potentially magic his way into the top 5 of the Pram class. He's 10th in class at the moment, but don't rule him out, because the Sim Racing Detective Esports driver is absolutely on a mission. Meanwhile, looking back to the front of the field, your pro and overall leaders here, Swirydowicz and Witvoet, they have been like this since the very start. Now, will they pit early? My gut feeling says they will not. They will stay out for as long as they can, because the problem is when you come into the pit lane with a 55-second long pit stop, we'll most likely put you at the back of the field, but you do not want to risk essentially pitting and coming out into any traffic as Jamie Dory comes in. Oh, he gets it wrong at entry there, but he's able to recover it just in time. But Dory almost extending the pit lane entry to the point of taking a rallycross line there. If he'd gone too wide, he would have had to go on another lap, and he would have picked up a black flag as well for his unsafe pit entry. So therefore, almost getting it wrong, Dory getting away with that just about. Michael Lees carries on, but meanwhile, Alan McCain follows Dory in. The iRacing Esports with Crest Autosport driver opted to go for the undercut. Meanwhile, at the front of the field, Swirydowicz and Witvoet still nose to tail here as they make the way up through. So these two drivers absolutely locking horns right now. The two teammates pushing each other onwards and hoping they can perhaps make some progress, but they do have Gavin Gardner getting closer and closer here. I also would imagine there's some fuel saving going on for Witvoet in particular, and the championship leader in second place at the moment might be thinking about one thing, which is jumping ahead of his teammate and making it a maximum point win here. Reese Watt, he's going to try and power his way past the third place AM driver of Adrian Fritsch. He's on the outside, he's on the right of your picture in the all-red machine. Fritsch for WS Racing Esports does not defend, he lets it go. So Fritsch being smart, albeit what in the end not being smart about his braking zone, runs very wide as he heads up the hill now in towards turn number 3. Well, we can see Fraser Rostance watched on behind here. I think Rostance is feeling a little bit hungry. I think, as Tom Ingram would say, he's feeling a little bit pointsy at the moment. We'll have to see what's going to happen there as he rolls his way on through the corners. But definitely right now, I think Rostance here hoping that perhaps he can get a bit closer and get into the fight. Nigel Stock at the back of Marcel Fritsch as well. We have had several pit stops play out. Jamie Dory has taken a stop. 59.5 seconds was his stop. So Jamie Dory having a bit of a longer stop there, but it's better to be safe than sorry. Alan McCain, 56.37 seconds. So they're all respecting the pit stop time at the moment at least. Nobody seems to be in breach of it, but it's so tight. Sam Exton almost hits the 55-second mark. 55.6 seconds. He's beaten out the pit lane there. Behind what is Craig Twardok and also Joseph Wright. So Twardok leaps another driver in the pit lanes there. Twardok right now is absolutely hauling, whether it's on the road or whether it's on strategy. He jumps Sam Exton in the pit lane. Brilliant work there from Twardok, and now up the hill he goes. It's a black flag for Exton. Now the only thing I can imagine he's picked up a black flag for would be unsafe pit entry or pit exit, and I'm just hearing in my ear it's unsafe pit exit there. He was speeding on exit, and therefore as he goes straight on there at turn number 2, well, I think frustration is building there. Cold tyres as well. Phil McDougall squeezes on past. The 6R Project Black driver moves up a blaze. Exton is definitely going to fall to the very back of this race, as William Kurtler as well has also... Oh, he goes straight on there into the barrier at turn number 2. They're going on quite a bit. These cold tyres are not helping anybody as Lewis Mason makes his way to the pit lane in the 991. So as he heads on down here, well, right now, Mason, I think, definitely feeling as though that this is now his time to shine on pit strategy. But what's it going to be here as he rolls his way down pit lane? And the answer, well, he was at the time running inside the top 3 of the AM class in terms of that battle. Is the right call for Phil Tiltley Motorsport? We will wait and see as Andy Fox is in the pit lane, albeit he is a lap down, to be fair, the same for Andrew Pike. But they are being serviced here. They are within the pit window, given they are on to lap number 9 for them. But here is your top 3, meanwhile, with Joe Coffin, the prime leader, hand dropped Adam Wilson-Weir. And it is going to be a very close run all the way through. And in terms of our most accurate pit stop so far, from what we hear in my ear, it has been 55.68 seconds from none other than Sam Exton. But beyond that, nobody has been able to absolutely get it dead on the 55 seconds at the moment. We are waiting to see who might be able to get it very close on pit lane time. And we're all keeping an eye on that one, ladies and gentlemen. There's no award for it, but there are bragging rights, of course, of being the quickest in the pit lane, or the best at time in 55 seconds. But what do you do in terms of strategy? Do you change all 4 tyres, or do you change just 2? Well, some would say you change just 2. It'd be the 2 front tyres, because the rear tyres of these cars will not be taken anywhere near the wear that the fronts will. And if we're changing all 4 tyres, will mean it goes to a fully cold car once again. Remember, when they're sat their station in the pit lane, they are losing tyre temperature. The jackets come off those tyres when they go on, and therefore they are not holding any tyre temperature when they come out. So it makes these pit stops very tricky indeed to negotiate. But going all the way down the hill, the Weave and Wine, Nigel Stock and Marcel Fritsch together with Nick Clemens behind, and looking back for the rear here of your Audi driving this Gen 1 car, the best racing esports machine of our number 7, Marcel Fritsch. How do we know it's a Gen 1 car? Well, you can look at the front of the car, but also because of the fact we know the rear view camera is mounted offset here on the left-hand side of the car from a front-on perspective, whereas the camera in the new Gen 2 car is mounted dead centre at the rear. It's where it was mounted on the trail hooks earlier today when we were down there seeing the cameras being mounted for the broadcast. But Marcel Fritsch won't be thinking about camera mounts, he'll be thinking about Nigel Stock getting closer and closer. Here comes Stock looking up the inside, in towards the Charlie's contact between the two of them, sends Fritsch sideways. Stock's collected as well. They go one way then the other, and both cars in the end, well, all over the road, and it all goes very wrong. But Marcel Fritsch is able to carry on. Meanwhile, Nigel Stock, where exactly has he gone? And the answer is he's had to tow to the pit lane. So Fritsch makes it safely to the pits, albeit damage on the car, which he'll use the fast repair for. Nigel Stock, meanwhile, not able to carry on at all. So nightmare moment there. But more intrigue in the pit lane as Reece Watts come in. So has Ben Gregory, so has Adrian Fridge, so has Fraser Austin, so has Nick Clemens. They're all starting to come in now. And remember, we're now on to lap number 11. So we've got this lap plus one more, and then they must come in. Otherwise, they will be outside of the pit window. Has anybody managed to get even close to the 55-second time limit at the moment? The answer is no, not from what I can see. Everyone's sticking with 56 or more seconds at the moment, minus Sam Exton. So it's very interesting to see how close they are getting. Meanwhile, here's Alan McCain by his lonesome at the moment, albeit having served his pit stop, so he'll be hoping he's able to move forward a little bit more. And then we do have Lee Horde here, where he's all over the back of Jamie Dory. But remember that Lee does have a pit stop still to do after the damage he picked up on lap number 5 into 6. And Horn right now, knowing that he's still got that stop to do, but he'll use Jamie Dory as a driver to try and help out with a little bit of slipstream. That will gain him about a second or two a lap, given the fact he will be gaining on those straights. But still, the pits is definitely active, but not with our leaders. Reece Watt currently being serviced there, just waiting now for his pit stop to be completed. 53, 54, 55, and he'll leave the pit box then. And as he does so, decides to play it safe on time. A lot of them do, and indeed, nobody in the 55s. Only 155 in the pits right now from Sam Exton. Otherwise, everyone 56s or more. But Reece Watt comes out, and as he does so, there is Lewis Mason. So Mason clears the JW Motorsport machine. He makes his way onwards. Adrian Fritsch is behind there, and Joseph Wright's not too far off of him. So it's still a bit of a shuffle here. But meanwhile, at the front of the field, Luciano Witvoet and Wojciech Swirydowicz just stayed out to go the final lap of the pit window. Meanwhile, Gavin Gardner is in. Joe Coffin's coming behind him. Adam Wilson-Weir as well. Stuart White is Kieran Smart. They're all piling in here. What about Matthew Sheraton? Does he decide to flick to the pit lane? He does. And meanwhile, Mark Kent follows him. Michael Lease does not. So Lease goes 12 laps here. Now, to be fair, he does have the success pass in the car, which means he will be able to with that fuel load. And it does give him just that extra bit of flexibility. But all these drivers right now, 9, they've got to get this pit stop done sooner rather than later. and this is where we will start to see who fits in where. Now, the first driver we've got to think about is Jamie Dory. He is the leading driver who has pitted within the window. The only other driver who has pitted so far in front of it is Sam Smith, but he pitted on lap number 5. That doesn't count. That was for repair work on the car. That was a fast repair after what was the contact over the mountain. So, as we do see Jamie Dory coming on down, where will he fit in? We know at the time when he pitted, he was battling for the back end of the top 10. He was in the bottom half of it, so you would imagine that's going to put him somewhere around what would be Winus and Smart at the moment, as Downing's into the pit lane as well. But we will see whether that's the reality. Lee Horn trying to stay with Benjamin Gregory is a sizable, well, is 12 seconds behind. So we have got quite a gap starting to build here between drivers. But as we do see Gregory rolling his way on down, well, Gavin Gardner's now leaving. Gardner has been serviced at 56.60 stop time. Joe Coffin follows him. Adam Wilson-Ware a lot long in the pits. Meanwhile, a whole minute almost there. Stuart Winus and Kieran Smart both come out. The Track Scotland guys doing a brilliant job here. But there's Jamie Dory on your left. There's Lee Horder with him. So as they all come out, where's Dory going to end up? Will he get ahead of the Track Scotland duo? Yes, he will. Just about here as the Albino Gorilla Machine, as it's self-titled there, and Jamie Dory holding that nickname. We'll see what is those images on the car of him as a gorilla, but as they make their way up the hill towards turn number 2, Jamie Dory there squeezing ahead of the Track Scotland pair of Winus and Smart, literally just by attempts the end, gets the job done, a very valuable job at that, and that is a brilliant effort there from Next Gen Pink, making sure their driver gets clear of traffic, and now he can go hunting after Adam Wilson-Ware and Joe Coffin, albeit they are lead lap traffic, but he doesn't want to deal with those Pro-Am drives if he can help it. So remember, Pro drivers, they have no Pro Championship. They only score based on overall points, and that's what matters to the biggest drivers on the grid. Meanwhile, into the pit lane here. Here are your Project 26 for AlphaTauri Challenge car. Luciano Witvoet and Wojciech Swirydowicz. They have swapped since we last looked at them, but as they make the way on down, well, I do believe there's been a bit of strategy between these two, and Swirydowicz has been trying to save some fuel behind his teammate as well. So it's been a bit back and forth between them, but as they make the way on down pit lane, that swap came on lap number 9, but both cars now being serviced, and they will go up onto the jacks. In theory, we would expect that Witvoet should come out ahead, given the fact he saved a lot more fuel, but we will see. And all these drivers coming through. Well, Michael Lees, we do have then Ben Beddyworth, and coming all the way down. And as they make their way in towards what will be here, the pit lane, we do have Ben Bennyworth coming through. And I was just listening in the background, ladies and gentlemen, because our stewards are keeping an eye on those pit stops at the moment, albeit no more information at this time. But as all these drivers being serviced, Andy Aldhouse comes in as well from the lead of the AM class here. That's track position lead, not strategic position lead. George Stone follows him in, but we will see where this is going to bring them out as well. These pit stops are definitely going to be very long. Gavin Gardner then, he is the first driver in this order who has pitted, and he comes to the end of the pit window. And indeed, as our final stoppers are in right now, well, Gardner here in third. We can see the Project 26 cars coming out the pit lane. I think as the pit window closes, Gavin Gardner's going to take the lead of the race. Yes, he is. Gardner moves into the lead. It's been a long time since we've seen him right at the front of the field, but now can he hold on for his half an hour of racing? As Swirydowicz and Witvoet in the end have lost out, but to be fair, given their relative pace and a 2-second gap to Gavin Gardner, you would imagine that right now Gardner is going to have some pressure later on. More pit stops playing out there. We've still got some cars in the pit lane, but that pit window is now closed. Joe Coffin a bit further behind, and Will Coffin the Pro-Am leader here as we see a mistake. Swirydowicz goes deep. They both go deep, the 2026 cars. Is Joe Coffin going to take them both here? We take Swirydowicz, but right now Witvoet's trying to warm up those tyres, and that's the thing. This outlap is proving to be so difficult, but Joe Coffin is on the attack as he makes his way onwards. We look down over the front of the 136 Honda. Coffin right now, he could be kingmaker here today, because if he fights with Witvoet, Witvoet hits the barrier, going for a turn 6 into 7. Coffin right now, well, he can put pressure on the Project 26 cars. Witvoet got that mistake in. Swirydowicz made that major error at turn number 2 as well. This is not looking good for the Hyundai Elantras. And here comes Coffin right now. Is he going to brave it into Skyline? No, he's blocked there as they come down. Fairly blocked, it should be said. So he rolls his way on down the hill. This is definitely looking so tense here right now. And for Project 26 AlphaTauri Challenge, the risk they have confronting them is the fact that right now they've got a prime driver here who, having pitted before them on lap number 11, he's got his tyres warmed up. He's respected the vulnerability of the car on the outlap, and he's been absolutely able to go on the attack. Matthew Sheraton, he's all over the back of Michael Lees as they come on down the hill, and as he does so, he's battling for second place in prime right now. But who have been the biggest gainers and losers as a result of the pit stops? That's what many of you will be wondering. We'll give you some analysis on that very shortly. as we do also see some fights starting to build in the AM class, with Sheraton and Leeds back together. And indeed, right now it's two rivals who've been apart for a little bit. They're never too far apart here at Bathurst, but will Sheraton get the better run coming down the mountain as he heads onto the Commonwealth Straight? Will the Aztec Racing driver race it in real life as well, having raced Porsche Cayman 718 Boxsters? Well, as he rolls his way up towards probably turn number 20, where he gets ready to go for a move here. But what's the move going to be in the number 1 car right now? The move is going to be to stay put. And remember, of course, last season he was your Blue Lobby Pro champion, or your overall champion there. So he does, rightly so, have an NXTCC title under his belt, the biggest one that you do want in your racing lobby, which is the overall championship. And indeed, he is a very hard-working driver, no doubt about that. But on the back of the 55 car right now, Lease is giving him no inroad here, and he stays exactly where he's been for a bit of time, waiting for when that next opportunity is going to be presented. But as an opportunity doesn't present itself to him, we are presented with an opportunity to go back to the battle for 4th place in the AM class here. And this is Adrian Fritsch and Fraser Rostance together, as they come down through at turn number 23, find the way from that left and left again very shortly into the second half of the race now. And Rostance absolutely glued to the back of Adrian Fritsch, having started in 2nd place in the class alongside Mark Kent on that grid. Well, right now, Adrian Fritsch, who was the quick starter in the race, unfortunately, the pace hasn't quite lived up to the rate of his starts, but it's all part and parcel of the play here. Mark Kent, meanwhile, the leader of the AMs, with Lewis Mason, his teammate, behind. And you'd understand here, the Full Tilt Motorsport driver is going to feel so 1-2 is the right call. Meanwhile, here's a big change. Joseph Wright, now the man who, when we caught up with him in the build-up to today, not on broadcast, when I caught up with him in the pit lane, he was really worried about the fact, would he be comfortable in this Hyundai Elantra? Well, right now, he is comfortably in 3rd place in the AM class here, and something tells me this podium could be a very special one to him if he can keep it together for another 28 minutes and a final lap. So let's wait and see. But deep breaths there, he could be bringing on home what would be an incredible podium here. He's already had 1 podium this season, but he'd like more, and he was saying about the fact that at Portland International Raceway, he was gutted the fact he actually missed out on the opportunity of a win in race number 3, if my memory serves me correctly. And indeed, he's yet to take a win in some time, maybe hoping he can find his way to winning ways here today, albeit Mason and Kent are 7 seconds clear in total, so that's going to be a bit of a bridge to jump. But whether he can make it or it's a bridge too far, we'll have to wait and see. With Joe Coffin now, after the Project 26 AlphaTauri Challenge drivers are starting to get their tyres up to temperature, he's now feeling a bit of pressure from Swirydowicz. You can see there Swirydowicz looking to the inside, but a bit too far back to beat the Honda on the brakes, so therefore come through Murray Corner at the moment. Well, it's going to be more of a chance. And in terms of those pit stop times, you'll be able to see them very shortly on screen, I do believe. Can we bring that data up? I think we might be able to. And here it is on your time tower, ladies and gentlemen. We do see the pit time there replacing what was the car logos. And, well, in the end, the fastest of our stoppers in terms of stationary time was Sam Exton. He had to make a second stop due to what was a black flag for unsafe pit exit, so stop and hold, but he did have the fastest pit stop time of 55.6 second stop. But as we do leave the pit stop times and go back to our logos, we'll joke off in there being passed by Wojciech Swirydowicz. Doesn't put up too much of a fight and decides to let the pro driver retake 3rd place, and he just tucks in there, knowing that he wants to ride the draft of the Project 26 AlphaTauri Challenge car, so that way Adam Wilson-Weir, the man behind him, cannot catch up. Well, we'll see whether Wilson-Weir's got a strategy, a plan B in mind, as meanwhile... Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've just had an update, and Sean Dobie has been awarded a drive-through penalty for a short stop there. So Dobie getting it wrong in the pits, a 53.3 second stop there. So he fell foul of the pit timer of 55 seconds plus. So therefore, he was a little bit under, and indeed, like Bruce's, the price is right. Well, unfortunately, the time was not right for him, but meanwhile, the time's right. To look at this battle, so that's Rostance up the inside of Adrian Fritsch, and Nick Clemens goes diving up the inside as well, sees the doors open and gets his elbows out there. And, well, right now, I don't think Adrian will be too impressed with that, because that's put his car very much off racing line, and they go defensive there, as that's Andy Fox trying to unlap himself from the trio in front of him. But he's got to be a bit patient there, as meanwhile Fraser Rostance now under pressure, and Nick Clemens looking around the outside. Will Clemens go for it here through turn 6 and 7? Yes, he's going to go for it. That's going to be a brush with the barrier there, surely. No, it's not. Nick Clemens somehow avoids the barrier, and Fraser Rostance there completely lifted off, worried about what was going to happen. And Nick Clemens right now an absolute daredevil as he moves up into 17th place. What a move from Nick Clemens, and well, in the end, getting his elbows out, no doubt about it. As they come down the mountain now, well, I can imagine if Clemens at this point is going to be taking a deep breath and thinking to himself, well, that was the move that he's definitely going to remember for all the right reasons, even though it's almost for the wrong reasons. But meanwhile, as it all went right for him, let's go back in time and take a look at some moments from earlier on where it all went a bit wrong for some drivers, including was a huge incident at the end of lap number 4 for several drivers, including Owen Stitchbury. So in fact, this was on lap number 5. We do apologise. And this was the battle between Stitchbury and none other than the Track Scotland car of Kieran Smart at the time. The two of them came into contact, and then it all escalated from there. And I think it was several cars being picked off there, including Lee Horn, and they all got caught up. This is what it looked like from on board Lee Horn's car. So Horny and seeing the two in front of him fighting each other, and then suddenly, well, he tried to part the seas, and Stitchbury's going to give him a bit of a knock to the rear right quarter panel as he tries to get the throttle down, and unfortunately it all went wrong, but thankfully Benjamin Gregory able to squeeze on through there, and they all got collected on one side of the road. So a bit of a comfortable breather for those drivers. That was a big instant for them, and that was really it in terms of the big moments earlier on. So back to your live pictures we come. But as we do, still plenty of time to be done. That was that instant that collected so many of our primes and a couple of pros. But right now, still more battling to come here as we do see Stuart Winus and Kieran Smart together. Now the two Track Scotland drivers, 3rd and 4th in class. Jamie Dory right in front of them. Dory, of course, got the jump on them in the pit lane by going for the undercut strategy. But now they've caught up to him. Adam Wilson-Witt is 7 seconds up the road. So you would think that our Track Scotland pair here will be very keen to come forward as quick as they can and potentially find a way to gain a place. But the only problem is going to be, where exactly are they going to find that position? Well, we will have to see, because down the corner straight, it's going to be the toe off that Audi that will help them, but that Audi's so quick to get towards top speed, and therefore those Hondas are going to have to do it in the corners, or do they hope that Dory can close the gap? Well, the problem that Jamie Dory is presenting is the fact he's not actually closing on Adam Wilson-Witt. The last couple of laps, the lap delta has been against him rather than in his favour, and well, we'll show you the lap time history very shortly between him and Adam Wilson-Witt. And here you go, over the last 3 laps, ladies and gentlemen, that is where Adam Wilson-Witt has been able to pull away by the best part of almost a whole second a lap on 2 of the laps, and on one of them only 0.3, but the average is approximately half a second a lap in the favour of Adam Wilson-Witt. So that's why Winus and Smart will right now want to try and clear Dory as quickly as they can, albeit not like that, with Kieran Smart running a bit wide there, and with Smart definitely in the car right now that has been bruised, albeit it's the car that survived that contact with Owen Stitchbury, so therefore a bit of a different outcome for him compared to Stitchbury. But you can definitely see right now with that Jamie Dory in that 6th place, it's going to be a little bit of a roadblock, shall we say, for Track Scotland's progress. Meanwhile, coming back to Luciano Witvoet with Wojciech Swirydowicz, and as these two make the way up the hill right now, well, what is going to be the game plan here? Swirydowicz riding in the draft still. Gavin Gardner is not checking out of this race anymore. In fact, they are gaining on Gardner at what is approximately 0.4 a lap. So at this rate or not, they will be with him. Given he is 2.5 seconds away, they will catch up to him within the next 7 laps, which mathematically, when our lap time here is 2 minutes 15 for our fastest drivers out there, or 2 minutes 16 almost, what you would imagine is that we are going to see them catch up to him with approximately what will be about 3 minutes left, if my mental mathematics is correct. So it will be the penultimate lap that they will be attacking Gardner. Of course, when they get in the draft, which is the best part of 2 seconds, but it becomes really noticeable at 1 second and closing, you will see them gain even more so. And that's only going to add to it. So Gardner right now needs some real magical laps at this point if he wants to stay safe. Otherwise, this may not be over yet. He may be trying to hold on for the win right on the last 2 laps. And more ideally, he wants it to go down to the final lap, then he can get his elbows out as wide as humanly possible. But this race still is throwing curveballs here. He may have got it right on the strategy, but right now he's got to get it right on track, and that is just as hard as getting the perfect strategy together, particularly when Luciano Witvoet has just gone purple over the mountain of everybody. He is now putting together his best laps of the day, and at this rate, it could be the best laps of the season for this man. As a number 60 driver here, definitely looking to try and add another win to the books and go for maximum points. But from him, we come back to Winus and Smart. Still together, still chasing after Jamie Dory. No real change coming afoot between these two at the moment as they head on down. What's happening in the AM class? Well, not too much at the moment. Mark Kent still in control. Lewis Mason 3 seconds back and losing out at the rate of 0.3 a lap. You'll see Mason very shortly. There he is as he comes onto screen and making his way underneath the Australian Whiskey Ned billboard. right now, definitely one of those drivers right now who will be wanting a drink after this one, given the great effort he's put in. And then we do have Joseph Wright in third, with Nick Clemens catching up to him. That's almost stumbled over my words. But Fraser Roston's a bit further back. We can see here he's definitely catching up to Joseph Wright at a rate of 1.5 seconds a lap, if it's to be believed, over at least the last lap, if not the last couple of laps by looks of things. So Rostons is not out of this yet. He still wants that spot on the podium if he can find and help himself to it. However, I think Joseph Wright's going to have something to say about that when the time comes. But speaking of the time, Alan McCain and Michael Lees, they come back together as we look back from the rear. With your iRacing Esports powered by Crest Autosport car, and we're powering his way along. Well, here comes Lees, little by little, getting closer and closer. McCain at this point thinking, do I go defensive or not? Well, he's going to have to make a decision shortly, because here comes the look up the inside. That is going to be all in, and Michael Lees goes for it into Griffiths Bend. Is it going to end up the way he wants it to? The answer is not quite so at the moment, because McCain is still there on the inside. In towards the cutting they go, and in the end, when McCain does lift off there, he decides not to fight it all the way in. And well, Lees now moves up to 6th place in prime. His next target is going to be Benjamin Gregory, 5 seconds up the road, and Lees has been gaining on Gregory at a rate of a couple attempts a second a lap, so he needs a bit more to close him down. Meanwhile, Wright and Clibbins here. Clibbins is going to go around the outside, and well, I think Wright doing the right thing to let him go, but now he's got to try and stay glued to the back of Clibbins, because Rostons is closing 3 tenths on that previous lap was the rate he caught up, so nowhere near as bad as previously, but still he'll want Clibbins now to just give him a little bit of a draft down the straights, and perhaps also to learn a new line from him if he can. Sam Smith, he's made 2 trips to the pit lane, his valid one being on lap number 11. He's on the back of Andy Aldhouse. Aldhouse going very deep there, and at this point I think Smith's going to just simply scoop around the outside here. Aldhouse is going to have no response other than to tuck in. And fair play, as Aldhouse right now is Will Kurtler trying to close up to him, and that's the worry man for him. He does not want Kurtler getting too close at all. Heading the way over and around. Well, meanwhile, we do see Stuart Winnes and Jamie Dory. Hold up a second. I think Dory's had a bit of a poor run through chase. And as they come down towards Murray's Bend here, well, right now the Pro drivers are swarming on Dory as they get ready to go into the braking zone. Onto the anchors. It's going to be Winnes up the inside here. Is Dory going to be able to hold him all the way round? He's going to try it. Meanwhile, here comes Kieran Smart looking for an opportunity to get involved as well. Now, Smart here trying to push his teammate along, trying to give him a little bit of bump draft to get into the inside for turn number 1. And well, that's going to be Winnes going all in. Dory decides to go for the switch back there. Lovely counter-attack from Dory. And now with the traction in that Audi, you can see what Smart started. He thought he was going to follow Winnes out the corner, but in fact, he's tucked in behind here, Dory. So now he's going to get ahead of his teammate, and they're going to push Jamie Dory forward instead. But that's not the way they wanted to go whatsoever. And looking back from the rear here of the Next Gen Pink number 13, the Gen 2 car, looking comfortable at the moment and going defensive in towards turn number 2. Oh, tap to the rear there between teammates, and that's going to be sending Kieran Smart wide, and Stuart Winnes in the end under brake him. Well, the gloves coming off here, and the number 1 rule of race, of course, is to beat your teammate. The number 2 rule is don't take your teammate out. And Stuart Winnes always forgetting rule number 2 there, but Kieran Smart able to recover the car. But Track Scotland, well, they need to find a way past Jamie Dory, but Dory is not making this anywhere near easy for them. Not that we'd expect it to be fair, but definitely the pressure is on. Speaking of growing pressure, well, Gavin Garner on the previous lap was 8 tenths slower than Luciano Witvoet. Witvoet is within 6 tenths already as they come through the dipper. We thought he was going to take a few more laps. Well, in fact, not so. Witvoet has just been getting faster and faster. Meanwhile, Gardner, well, he's not been quite matching the pace of earlier. So as we do see our top 3 making the way down Conrad this time, well, Witvoet and Swirydowicz definitely well within the draft here. And Garner right now, he's going to have to try and hold on for 16 minutes. And when it is 4 seconds back to Joe Coffin, the Pram leader in 4th place, well, something tells me right now Gardner is either going to have to make himself absolutely wide to the point he's going to have to block the entire road. He's going to have to park a bus. Or alternatively, this is going to look a very almost foregone conclusion that he may be swarmed here by the Project 26 Valve Twin Challenge cars. Although we do know that Gardner, to be fair, when his back's up against the wall, he can be a very capable defensive driver, and we will see as meanwhile Track Scotland here swapping their drivers around again. Kieran Smart drafting his way past Stuart Winnes, and now they're going to try and go after Dory once again, but they won't want to make contact with each other, as Jamie Dory meanwhile trying to run away for a little bit longer. Back to the battle for 6th place here in the Prime class. This is Michael Lees holding off Alan McCain, followed by Cheverton and Twardock, and the 2 behind right now watching with popcorn in their view as they come charge on through because of the fact they really have got a cinematic seat here in this battle. And Lees and McCain together. Michael Lees has picked up a slowdown penalty for track limit At turn number 21, he's going to try and burn it here going into Murray's Bend, and then at Hell Bend he'll try and wrap up the burning of it. But we see a little bit of a look up the inside there on exit from McCain. He gets the better run. Lisa's going to try and burn some time. And well, right now, McCain on that inside, getting ready to go into the braking zone. They're going to be 2 by 2 here. McCain all in for the move, and it's going to be a drag race now all the way out towards turn number 2. That Veloster just has the slight edge on acceleration in the past. Does it still have the edge here today? The answer is going to be not quite so. Well, eventually, yes, it may do so, but on that outside line as well. I think that's been the advantage there for Leeson, the 55. The JW Motorsport Veloster just squeezes ahead, and we can see there Twardock and Cheverton queuing up behind McCain here, not trying to put him under too much pressure, because otherwise they could lose Lease, and they won't want to lose, and therefore fighting for that 6th place. But up towards the cutting they come, and Twardock looking to the inside. We know how quick he is, given how strong his lap was in qualifying, albeit started in 14th place and 7th in prime class. But he is looking very good at the moment. Meanwhile, Sam Smith, he has picked up a black flag in the pit lane, I do believe, for speeding in the pit lane or an unsafe entry. But meanwhile, we come back to your leaders. Here is Gavin Gardner, and well, there is Luciano Witvoet and Wojciech Swirydowicz right behind him. That gap has been completely eroded and eradicated for the next-gen pink driver, and now make his way on down the stretch, getting ready to go in towards turn number 20. And well, Witvoet so close now. Surely he's thinking about the move. He's going to try and go to the inside here. Does Gardner defend it? No. He's going to look outside to inside then, but Witvoet just outbrake him. And despite the switchback here from Gardner, can he power his way all the way around the outside? No, he can't. Small tap to the rear from Swirydowicz. And as they come down towards Merrick's corner now, well, it's going to be too wide. Gardner gets a nose ahead, looking around the outside. He's going to chuck the car into the apex as quickly as he can. And Witvoet there, just simply holding that inside line. We'll say to Gardner, you can do that as much as you want, but the problem is you're never going to get through on an outside line. Here comes Swirydowicz looking up the inside, and right now Project 26 Alpha Touring Challenge trying to make it a 1-2. Swirydowicz all in. Gardner goes to the switchback here, but those Elantras are just looking too quick right now in the hands of their drivers, and Gardner falls back there into 3rd place. He powers his way up the hill, but can he now find a way to get back here, as it is going to the roar of German technology all the way on the rise? But the problem is he's not close enough here to look for a potential move. I think he is going to have to wait and instead try and stay with them now for a little bit longer. We have got change further down the order. We'll come to that shortly, ladies and gentlemen, because Kieran Smart has passed Jamie Dory, but Gavin Gardner absolutely glued to the back of Swirydowicz here, coming in towards the cutting. Albeit Witvoet might be able to start pulling away a little bit here if Gardner starts to fight. So therefore, this is now a very delicate position for the number 11 driver to be in, because on the one hand, he wants that 2nd place back, but ideally he wants to win. But the point is, he fights for 2nd, he's going to potentially cost himself a chance at a win, because Witvoet will just simply pull away. So we'll have to wait and see what the plan is there between them, as meanwhile we take a look back at how Jamie Dory has been passed by Kieran Smart. So this was coming out of the final corner only months ago. Dory in the end actually quite slow coming in towards the corner and on exit, so Smart on the inside here. This was going into Hell's corner, and well, much like we just saw for the battle for the lead, it was just a simple move on the inside, and Kieran Smart in the end getting the job done. So well done to him. The 3rd place Brown trying up into 6th place overall, and Dory not having an answer, it would seem. And it does look as though those Lantras are looking rather quick on the straights now. Indeed, able to match, if not surpass, the Audi just a little bit. This Gen 2 Audi does seem to be a little more capable in the corners by comparison. That might be all part of the Gen 2 car. Here's a car now where you don't have to worry as much about the fact it was really a straight line speed machine in the past, but now you can be a bit more aggressive. But meanwhile, we look all the way back here to the battle for 22nd. Nigel Stock and Andy Aldhouse fighting over 7th place in the AM class, and Sam Exton right now just trying to find his way on past, and in the end he passes Aldhouse. The Pro driver now looking to go past Nigel Stock if he can, but he's got a long way to go where he's going to find his contemporaries. That's Ben Bennyworth up in 19th place he's looking for. But with 11 minutes still left on the clock here, plenty of fighting to come. Craig Twardock, Michael Lease, Alan McCain and Matthew Sheraton, they are the 4, the quartet, fighting over 6th through to 9th in the prime class. Still more fighting between these two, although Craig Twardock has been able to find his way to the front of this group right now. Although I think there's a bit of a story with that one, which we'll get a replay of when we can. But Lee's here on the back, lifted off the throttle there, making sure not to touch the rear of the Honda at the moment. And you can see Matthew Sheraton just watching on from behind. We're riding on board the Aztec Racing at 001 car. Well, right now, he's definitely not 007, but he's definitely 001 with regards to the one championship he's taken. Looks up the inside there, going all in. And as he does so, the Aztec Racing driver there getting a lovely move on, but he can't quite get the exit he wants. And therefore, lack of traction, and Sheraton falls back in. And right now, the Claremont Consultancy sponsored machine having to wait another turn as he comes through turn number 1 here. But right now, Prime champion previously and then an overall champion. And Matthew Sheraton knows what it's all about to be in the thick of this battle. And he's absolutely picking the right time to attack, but unfortunately his rival's proven to be just as capable in a defensive manner. But how did this all start, I hear you ask? Well, here's a replay to explain, and it all began with Alan McCain and Craig Twardock staring down each other. And this was the side-by-side battle. There was Michael Lease in front at the time. This was back on lap number 20, and in the end, Twardock just trying to outpace his fellow Honda driver, albeit it would all come down to the braking zone. And as they went in towards the brakes of turn 21, well, Twardock there able to just simply outrun the Iris Esports car, and that's how he got that move done. But then how did he get ahead of Michael Lease is the next question. And this was how it happened. It was a lap later. And he was coming down from the dipper in towards Forest Elbow. So what exactly went wrong for Michael Lease, I hear you ask? One under brake in there. The car going straight on. He understeered deep. And that enabled Craig Twardock just simply to siphon his way out the inside. And that brings you up to speed with their story. But back to your live racing we come, and as we do, well, Luciano Witvoet and Wojciech Swirydowicz are now starting to pull away. They're trying to check out from Gavin Gardner. With 9 minutes left on the clock, on to lap 22. We're going to have another 4 laps after this one, if my maths is correct. And Whitford doing everything right at the moment to try and make it another win. And we're a very valuable one because remember, this race is worth 3 times the normal points of a single race to make up the fact we only have a single race here today. But Whitford heading across that time in line and, well, absolutely on time at the moment. Wojciech Swirydowicz watching on behind here. He may have a shot at this, trying to take the win off of his teammate. Indeed, he needs to get some big points back here to try and level the playing field. Behind, all the way in the fight for 11th through to 13th. Twardock's already left this trio behind now. He's gone from a quartet to a trio. And it's Matthew Sheraton at pass in there. Alan McCain, but not about hopping over a curb. And Michael Lease gets it a bit wrong. Oh, contact there as Alan McCain taps the rear of Sheraton's car. And what was not going to be an opportunity. He's not too happy about it whatsoever as Sheraton. Albeit whilst he's flashing his headlights there, I think right now he's going to be flashing his rear lights at Alan McCain because that tap stopped him from picking up the momentum of Michael Lease. Or in fact, he might have had to back out there given Michael Lease went defensive quite late. But either way, here comes Sheraton looking up the inside now into Hell's Corner. He's going to go in. It's the battle of the velocities here, and he'll get that move done. And now Alan McCain tries to make it up the inside, but a brief tap between the two of them. And in the end, McCain given as much space as possible to make sure he hasn't unsettled his car, nor Michael Lease's. But Sheraton moves up at the 7th place in Pro-Am, and McCain now tries to outrun the velocity for JW Motorsports. But you can see that Sheraton trying to give all the toe to the RSC Sports Honda as much as he can. But Michael Lease is going nowhere from the inside of that line. And therefore, too wide they come through Griffin's Bend. With Mark Kent closing on them little by little. The Full Tilt Motorsport driver would like a role to play in this potentially. Although Alan McCain here on the inside in towards the cutting. They'll go too wide in. But in the end, Michael Lease goes deep. And he just about avoids the barrier there. Goodness me, that's great car control there for Michael Lease carrying all that speed. But Alan McCain will finally take that 8th place in prime off of him. Up to 12th place goes Alan McCain. And Mark Kent now right on the back of this. But of course, he knows the fact that he doesn't need to beat these guys unless he's going for overall points. Right now, he's the AM leader. And we're 5-second gap to his teammates from Full Tilt Motorsport of Lewis Mason. Surely at this point he's got to be feeling safe. Meanwhile, not safe. We said this was going to happen later in the race. Joseph Wright in 3rd in the AM class. Well, he's now got the problem of Fraser Ostens. He's been absolutely burgeoning. And well, right now, if I had to go based on the profile picture of Joseph Wright, I think that surprise face there might definitely be for the fact that Fraser Ostens has got so close. But we will see what's to be as they roll the way through turn at number 10. And will Ostens staying close? But can he find a way in? The answer is going to be no, not at this time, as they come down the hill, and Rostance instead just having to sit there going through the dipper. But Ben Bennyworth, it's going to be a prime driver behind who's watching this right now, and I wonder if Bennyworth's going to have a role to play in this, given the fact that Craymass Motorsport driver, he just wants to pass them to go hunting after Nick Clibbins, albeit the wonderful Crown livery machine is absolutely very powerful in terms of straight line speed in that Audi, and we have seen, of course, Bennyworth mix up with these two in the past, but right now, does he play a third-party role in this one, or just does he simply wait his turn? And I think here we're going to get an answer because he's now a 10th behind Rosten's car. He's getting closer and closer, but Rosten's in the end looking up the inside. Rosten's goes all in on the brakes, right, leaves the door open. Rosten's takes too much curve, it sends it higher, and well, it's going to be right sent on the grass. But in the end, Rosten's backs off immediately there, realising the fact that if he was going to make that move, it wouldn't push the past. But Joseph Wright has picked up a slowdown for that cut of the track limit. So therefore, as we do see Rosten's having to go slowly through the corner, he's going to give up the time. He's going to give up place to Ben Bennyworth. And Rosten's, in fact, with that contact, has picked up damage to the car. He's either going to have to carry on and hope that it does not wind him any further, or Rosten's is going to have to come into the pit lane. So that is a meatball flag there, which advises the driver that they should ideally come in unless they can think they can get to the end. But understandably, if they are out there with a damaged car and they do create a further incident that involves other drivers, the penalty and the stewarding on them will be much harsher, given the fact they have been advised by iRacing stewarding system and they do need to get that car repaired. So Fraser Austin's in the end with an opportunity, but that opportunity has fallen flat, and unfortunately his race right now may fall flat as well as the car scoops the inside into turn number 2. That's not looking to be the easiest car to drive as Joseph Wright in the end goes very deep at turn 2. So Rosten's is going to have another chance at this, and right now he can't take his foot off the gas because, yes, if he's aware of Rosten's car being damaged, well, right now Rosten's, I think, is going to try and carry on all the way to the end. But meanwhile, back at the front end of the field, it's still Witvoet and Swirydowicz together. 2.5 seconds the gap to Gavin Gardner now, as Swirydowicz has picked up a slowdown penalty for track limits on the exit of the chase chicane, so therefore losing a bit of time as Lee Horn has just found his way past, and another Andy Aldhouse down to 24th place. That's for overall position only. But you can understand if Lee Horn right now will be literally chopping those places away one by one after that instant on lap number 5, which really cost him a chance at a top 10 today. So he'll be a bit frustrated at that, but some understanding will be in the fact that, of course, it's not about how you start the day, it's about how you end the day, and Horn looking to end the day on a positive note at the very minimum. From them, where are the other battles sitting right now? Well, Nigel Stock has Sam Exton for closing company. Stock, of course, having to come into the pit lane much early on with a tow, and then subsequently we did have to take the pit stop to get the car through the mandatory pit window, but doing all of that, and Stock currently in 7th place in the AMs, and Sam Exton, a Pro-Am driver, who whilst he did have the quickest pit stop of everybody, which was legal, as they both brushed the exit wall there coming out of the dipper, well, unfortunately, he had to make an extra visit to the pit lane after not having the limiter on at the right time when exiting the pit lane. So a bit of an unfortunate moment there for Sam Exton, when he was looking, of course, for potentially at least a top 10 in the Pro-Am class, if not a top 5, but that's the way it has gone. But with that, we come back to the front of the Pro-Ams, and Joe Coffin right now still in control. Himself and Adam Wilson, we're exchanging lap times as if it's going out of style. These two drivers absolutely pushed each other to the limit, and in terms of that lap delta between them, well, here it is at the bottom centre of your screen. And as you can see there, where Coffin has gained, then Sonny Wilson has been able to gain back and vice versa. There's been so little between them, and that goes to show that right now these two Pro-Am drivers really seizing the opportunity to land some huge points, both in class and also in the overall championship. And Kieran Smart 12.5 seconds behind, just hoping he can perhaps get involved if one of them makes a mistake. Otherwise it'll be a podium for the Track Scotland driver. Well, I don't think he'll be too upset about that. But into the pit lane for repair work has come Fraser Austin, and with that, well, he decided the car was undrivable in the end. It does force him in. He comes out in 7th place. It promotes Stock, Fritsch and Adrian Fritsch up the order. Marcel Fritsch being the first one there, the father behind the son. And Adrian Fritsch right now absolutely putting together a very good run. And his dad behind him here. And I suspect the WS Racing Esports team, given the fact they do have a 17-second gap to Nigel Stock, they may opt to finish this race as is. Because whilst Marcel Fritsch is the championship leader coming into this round, well, in fact, he's not the championship leader, let me correct myself. The fact that he is in 2nd place, but with George Stone all the way down in 9th place, and here is George Stone right now for Type 2 racing. Well, Marcel Fritsch would become the AM Championship lead after this round, and Adrian picking up some extra points by finishing ahead of his dad actually would move him up closer to Lewis Mason in the fight for 3rd. So it would technically be a strategic opportunity. In fact, Lewis Mason's currently 2nd in the AM class, so Mason would jump up into, we believe, 2nd place in the AM Championship, but you see Adrian Fritsch get closer on the whole to the top 3 of the class. That's what we're meant to say there. Indeed, mental mathematics, when all this is playing out, you have to understand, ladies and gentlemen, there's only so much that a brain can do. But meanwhile, right now, George Stone definitely not having the big brain plays here today. I think has not quite worked out the way he's wanted it to. But to be fair, it's just one round of 10, and that's what he's got to keep in mind here. As meanwhile, our leaders right right now, well, with 1 minute and 10 seconds to go, you'd understand if they're perhaps on the final lap. And Luciano Witvoet here in control by 9/10 ahead of his teammate Wojciech Swirydowicz and looking to try and bring it all on home. As we do say hello there to Jitas28 or Jack Pittis, I do believe, and saying hashtag Adam for Pro, and that's for Adam Wilson. We're the running joke now. We always do have that in the NXTCC community. When a driver does very well in their class, we normally do see the attempts at a trending hashtag of Driver X for Prime or Driver X for Pro. Although we've never quite seen one where it goes the opposite way, where a driver's not done too well on a night and we suddenly see everyone trying to say to them they should be demoted to class. But I think we always try to promote success rather than failure in the NXTCC throughout our community. But 30 seconds left, and I think this is going to be the final lap, ladies and gentlemen. As I look at my content booth window, we do have a white flag. Meanwhile, Nigel's stuck into the pit lane, so he's not got enough fuel to do that final lap. And as he parks up there, well, that's not gone right at all. So Stock's going to lose out some places right at the very end. That will promote Fraser Rosters back up into 6th in the AM class. But meanwhile, for Luciano Witvoet, as he rolls his way through the chase chicane here, it's one more quarter between him and a win that's going to extend his time at the top of the championship. The checker flag gets ready to wave, and whilst he may have taken second in qualifying, on strategy in the end, he was the faster driver compared to Swirydowicz with fuel saving in the first stint. However, Luciano Witvoet, he'll lead home. A 1-2 here for Project 26 AlphaTauri change. Swirydowicz takes the run-up spot, and Gavin Garner rounds off the overall podium with a brilliant drive. Joe Coffin comes on home victor in the Pro-Am class, with Adam Wilson Weir chasing him down, but not close enough to be run-up in Pro-Am. 5th overall. Kieran Smart, meanwhile, a great effort from him. He's going to come home in 6th place overall, and on the final step of the Pro-Am podium there, knowing if it were not for that instant earlier on, he could have had a chance at the win. And then Jamie Dory comes home in 7th place ahead of Stuart Wine. It's the two of them side by side and enjoying a brilliant rivalry. And then we have got all the way to wait to this man in 9th place for Full Tilt Motorsport, who will finish 5th in the Prime class. It's Benjamin Gregory with Craig Twardock in the end. He absolutely tried to recover the most he could out of this one. He fell to the back of the field on the opening lap. 10th place in, 6th for the Prime class. What a recovery. Matthew Sheraton will finish just ahead of Alan McCain. And Mark Kent on his return to the grid takes the AM win here for Full Tilt Motorsport with 13th place overall ahead of Michael Lees. Lewis Mason secures the 1-2 for the team in the AM class there with 15th, and it'll be Nick Clemens home 16th ahead of Ben Bennyworth, who comes out of the final corner, and the QMS Motorsport driver enjoying a solid drive, but only 11th place of the Prime class, unfortunately for him, but valuable points even so. Does Joseph Wright hold on? He does. He takes 3rd place in the AM class here, does Joseph Wright for NXTGEN Racing. A brilliant effort from him, given his doubts coming into this round, and the Fritsch family will round off the top 5 in the AM class there, 4th and 5th, completing the top 20 with it. Sam Exton will come on home shortly, 21st, as we did see Joshua Downing a lap down in the rear of the picture briefly a moment ago. And Sam Exton here is going to come on through to take 21st ahead of Fraser Rostens. And Rostens in the end couldn't quite recover a top 5 in the AM class, but he takes 6th in the class, 22nd overall ahead of Lee Horn. Andy Aldhouse will then come in 24th ahead of George Stone. And then we will have a couple more cars to come, including Will Kirtler here, who's had a struggle of a day, no doubt about it, Aztec Racing, but still, it's not quite got his way. And Nigel Stock, with that trip to the pit lane for the fuel that he was missing to go on to that final lap, he will complete your AM top 10 and will be your last lead lap finisher in 27th place. And unfortunately for the Crest Autosport driver, the strategy today did not work out at all. But as he calls them down, indeed they all do. Well, what a race it has been. But these two, as per usual, have absolutely controlled proceedings. But to be fair, we did have a bit of a mix-up on our hands because Gavin Garner did beat them on strategy with the undercut. But as his teammate Jamie pulls alongside, one understanding for Gavin, it'll be a bit of an emotional moment. See, I think he was hoping he might have been able to return to the top step of the podium after a long hiatus. But he didn't quite have the pace in the end, and too long left in the race to be able to make the magic work. But what we definitely got to see for NXTGEN Pink and the Audi RS3 Gen 2s today is the fact that these cars now, it may no longer be the straight line beast that it's previously been from the Gen 1 car, but it's lost on the straights, it's made up for in the corners, and NXTGEN Pink definitely seem to be back here with a car that they can definitely get under themselves and feel very comfortable with. But can anybody beat Project 26 AlphaTauri Challenge? Right now, the answer seems to be no as we complete the first half of the season. But as Mark Kent makes his way on down, the AM winner today, well, indeed, we can never quite keep him away from the grid. He was absolutely ecstatic to be back on the grid, and he's enjoyed himself out there. But as Joe Coffin heads on down, well, he'll be pleased as punch with that Prime win. Adam Wilson Weir as well, a return to the Prime podium after some time. And Kieran Smart also enjoying it, no doubt about it, rounding off that Prime podium, as Lewis Mason, meanwhile, We'll know here today, taking the second place spot in the AM class, bringing on home in the 1-2 of his teammate Mark Kent. Well, a huge result for him on a personal level, a huge result for the team on a team's level. And Joseph Wright, meanwhile, he'll be absolutely ecstatic to see he's back on that AM podium after missing out on the podium several times in the last couple of rounds. But here today, he will not be denied it, even if he had to fend off the pressure of several drivers all the way to the very end. But as the drivers all cooling down and come into the pit lane, let's take a look at those race results subject to any stewards' inquiries. And here they are. And as we can see, after our hour-long endurance race special for round number 5 of Season 10 of the NXTCC, the Next Gen Racing Touring Car Championship, brought to you on iRacing and powered by Doble Motorcycles, Luciano Witvoet, your winner in the end, overall, and in the pro class, a Project 26 for Alpha Touring Challenge, head of his teammate of Wojciech Swirydowicz. They were a top 2 in the end. They were absolutely untouchable, albeit they were untouchable on pace, not on strategy, because Gavin Garner had the strategy, but he didn't have the pace, and that's why he finished 3rd today for Next Gen Pink. Joe Coffin just missed out on the overall podium, but takes the win in the Pram class there. A brilliant bit of work for Team Big Lips. He was absolutely flying in the early stages after missing out on pole position in the Pram class to Adam Wilson-Weir, with the Type 2 racing driver in the end not having a response to Coffin's pace, and particularly Coffin getting things done on strategy and then holding on and taking control of the lead all the way to the very end. But Wilson-Weir will be happy with the runner-up spot in the Pram class in the top 5 overall, and Kieran Smart just missing out on that top 5, but the Track Scotland driver, given the rather contentious incident between himself and Owen Stitchbury, we survived it and managed to survive to take 3rd in the Pram class and 6th overall ahead of Jamie Dorey. And speaking of which, Jamie Dorey enjoying plenty of battling, but couldn't quite find his way into the top 5 for Next Gen Pink. Had a Track Scotland Stuart Weiner, so he held off right at the finish there, the two separated by only 400ths, and Benjamin Gregory and Craig Twardock completing your top 10. The full Tilty Motorsport driver absolutely enjoyed himself out there, Gregory, and indeed Craig Twardock the same, and keep in mind, of course, that he fell to the very back of the grid of what was 39 cars right at the start due to that incident, but in the end, Twardock was able to recover all the way through to 10th place and 6th in the Pram class, one of the biggest recovery drives we have seen in a long time, and the Sim Racing Collective Esports driver pulling off some magic here today in Australia, no doubt about it. Matthew Sheraton was just behind for Aztec Racing by 5 seconds, but 2 seconds clear of Alan McCain, and the RAC Sports powered by Crystal Autosport driver then had the AM winner behind him of Mark Kent, with the full Tilby Motorsport driver in the end, just about holding on to pole position in qualifying and taking that win where his rivals stumbled behind him. Michael East was 14th, separating the top 2 of AM, because then it was Lewis Mason in 15th place, helping to bring home the 1-2 for full Tilby Motorsport behind his teammate of Kent, in the AM class at least, and Nick Clemens was 16th ahead of Ben Bennyworth, with the QMS Motorsport driver 7 seconds ahead of your 3rd place AM driver Joseph Wright there, with a return to the AM podium for Next Gen Blue. Adrian Fritsch and Marcel Fritsch completed the top 20, the father-son combination for WS Racing Esports, both picking up valuable points in the top 5 of the AM class, and outside their top 5, we see Sam Exton in 21st place ahead of Fraser Rostance for Next Gen Blue, with Lee Horn 23rd ahead of Andy Aldhouse. The GBRC driver in the end, the one GBRC driver who managed to sneak into the AM top 10 or thereabouts, ahead of George Stone by a single second, and it was a further 8 seconds back to Will Kurtler. Nigel Stock took 27th place, the last lead lap finisher there for iRace Esports powered by Crest Autosport, and there was a lap down to Andrew Pike on a frustrating day today for the Sim Racing Collective Esports, but ahead of Andy Fox and Mark Hughes. Then it was Joshua Dan in 31st, ahead of Sean Doby, before we came to your retirees, including Sam Smith 7 laps down, Reese Watt 8 laps down, Phil McDougall was 11 laps down, and then much earlier retirees in the race from 36 onwards of Roy Plummer, Orion Stitchbury, Carl Thompson and Logan McKinsey. So a very challenging one at that, ladies and gentlemen, and I do apologise there, we just had a slight graphical glitch with regards to our results tower, but in the end it did fix itself there. But 39 starters, and in the end a grand total of 32 finishers, of which we did see 27 of them on the lead lap. That concludes our rundown of the race results from this one. Indeed, what a race it was. Plenty of battling action all the way through and through. And it was a 1 hour endurance race to be remembered, no doubt about it. And I hope you guys and girls at home have definitely enjoyed it as much as we have in the commentary booth. As we do say hello there to Alistair Kirk in the YouTube chat. And I'm doing very well, Alistair, and I hope you are as well. Indeed, I'm feeling absolutely on fire now after an incredible race. But indeed, whilst our race has come to a close, this broadcast is not over just yet, because coming up in approximately 5 to 7 minutes time will be our post-round interviews of our volunteer drivers, so don't go anywhere, you won't want to miss them. And we'll be back as soon as we possibly can, but as we do leave you, we leave you a word or two from our title sponsor this season, and that of course is Doble Motorcycles. Speaking of Mikey Doble Racing, if you'd like to support Mikey as he pushes it to the limit out on track, you can do so by following the Mikey Doble Racing Facebook page as seen on screen. Additionally, if you want to represent the 88 Army at a BTCC weekend, Mikey Doble Racing has some fantastic merchandise available just for you, as may be found either via the Mikey Doble Racing Facebook page or alternatively in the Doble Motorcycles store at dobledirect.co.uk. Don't miss out on being a part of the 88 Army today. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, it is time to kick off our post-round interviews. And we're going to start off by catching up with one of the drivers in the AM class, which joining me now is a man who I think has definitely surpassed his own personal expectations today. It's Joseph Wright. Joseph, good evening to you, and well, what an achievement for yourself today. Third in the AM class, 18th overall, and when we caught up in the build-up today, you were saying that perhaps you weren't feeling 100% confident, but come the end of it, you come away with a podium.
Yeah, it was completely unexpected. I just got a really good start off the beginning of it. It was a nice, clean start for everybody. And I was really surprised because it wasn't that I was benefiting from anyone else's issues in the M class. You know, I was overtaking them on track. I made a few adventurous moves, I would say, definitely in the first stint, trying to get up position, take advantage of some of the pro-ams that were getting in the mix. And yeah, I found my way past Fraser in the end, up towards top 4. And had a really good pit stop, slow outlet, but I was able to get past Fritch into a podium, and from there it was just holding it. The end, though, was a bit sketchy with my own teammate, but we got through it in the end.
Oh, indeed, we'll come on to the moment with your teammate in the due course. But, of course, winding it all back to the beginning, perhaps, coming into this round, we've had the major overhaul of the TCR cars on iRacing. What's perhaps been the biggest thing you've had to get used to with the car?
It just doesn't drive the same at all anymore. The Lancia was very much a boat, and you had to really get it around the corners. You had to fight it to get it through the corners. And then just lapping around here, the moment the tyres got up to temperature, it was completely different. It felt like it wanted to drive. It was a race car, and it's the most fun I've had in that Lancia all season long. It just drove so nicely. So I think the biggest thing that I was getting used to was the fact that I didn't have to fight it. It was going to do exactly what I asked it to.
Oh, fair play. Once you're command of the car, definitely started to pick up the pace. And in the race itself, now, of course, much longer race this one compared to the sprints we normally have. Tell us a little bit more about your start, because you started in 7th place, but you made some early ground.
Yeah, I got a really good launch off the start line. I was doing a bit of practice during the warm-up session, trying to see how these cars got off the line. And obviously at Silverstone, I stalled it, so I was a bit worried with the fact that everyone was saying the new clutch system was harder, and I actually found it a lot easier to use. So I got a really nice start, and I just decided I wasn't going to back out with it. I wasn't going to, lay back and wait. I was going to take the position as I could at the start, as other people were being a bit careful. So I managed to make a few positions up at the start before we got onto the mountain, and I even made a few risky looks up there as well, but I slowly made my way through. And yeah, I just found that pace, and I think what helped was catching Fraser in that first stint. He was being very cautious, especially around the pro-ams. And there were 2 pro-ams fighting directly in front of me. They were side by side up the mountain. And I thought, they're holding me up. I'm not staying behind them. And I decided to get involved, managed to get past one of them in what was a very big moment. I was very scared doing it. But yeah, every time I had the opportunity, I was going to make it. I wasn't going to sit behind in that one.
Oh, I see. Well, in the end, balancing at risk versus reward, no doubt about it. It sounds as though you got the balancing act right. And after all that, strategy-wise, of course, we did have the pit window today. Just take us through your logic and the pit stops. I do believe you opted to go around the midpoint of the pit window.
No, I went straight away. The moment it opened, I dived. I was in the headspace of, I was right behind another pro-am. I was trying to catch up to a podium, and I just wasn't gaining any time. And I thought, I'm going to do the opposite to whatever the drivers ahead of me do. They stayed out, so I was like, right, I'm coming in. I'm going to pit early. And I think it helped me out in the end doing that undercut. It was a cold tire moment up the mountain. I went deep. I lost about 3 seconds to the drivers around me on that outlet, but once the tyres were up to temperature, it meant that Fritz, who pitted the lap after me, he was also dealing with cold tyres, so I could just overtake him quite easily. So the early pit stop definitely helped me in that one.
Well, help for early pit stop, and in the end, it was all looking relatively good for the podium until your teammate Fraser Ostens decided to say hello, and thankfully you came off the best of the two. What exactly happened from your perspective?
So I was in a voice call with Lee, who was running around, and with a couple others who were running around out there as well, Roy. And we were just talking about Fraser at that point. We were like, hey, Fraser's going to take it easy. He's always an easy driver, he'd been giving up a lot of time when he was letting the other classes through. So we thought this is going to be, you know, he'll stay behind. He's not going to make any risky moves, so I can just drive defensive. And that's exactly what I was doing. I started to drive defensive. I knew he was quicker than me. And then he ducked it to the inside. And all I said on voice calls was, he's going for it. And I tried to give him as much room as possible. I watched the replay back, and I know that he caught the curbing on the inside, and it just threw him into me. I just put the power down when I was off the circuit. I put the power down. I was like, I just need to get this car back straight again. I was very fortunate to pull on in front of the other two and not collect them as I returned back to track. And I had very mixed emotions when I saw the meatball flag for Fraser. I was cheering because I was like, I don't have to fight for P3, but I was also really upset because it was a good fight. It was also my teammate. But to make it up to Fraser, I did hit the wall a few laps later, and I was driving around the last few laps with broken suspension on the front left, which is why the drivers behind were catching me so quickly.
Oh, I see. Well, in the end, a bit of damage on your own car in solidarity with the damage for your teammate Fraser, but still that damage wasn't enough to stop you from returning to the podium. It must have felt quite magical, given it's been a little bit of time since you've been on the podium, and there's been a few chances this season where you could have taken a podium, if not a win, but they didn't quite come together.
Yeah, Silverstone, you know, opening round, that's the last time I actually stepped on a podium, and it was a nice way to start the season. I think that was partly because I loved the circuit. It was raining, and the Elantra obviously is great in the rain. I don't know how it is now with the update, but I know that it was a good car there, so I had that pace. And then, yeah, it just went away. Fuji was a terrible weekend for me. I was involved in wrecks in all 3 races, and it was just not one to remember. And then Portland, I was fighting I was on the podium. I think I had the pace for the win, and I crashed into a car that had already crashed off the circuit. There was no way that I could have hit him if I just made the turn, and I didn't. So I've thrown it away a lot. I was worried in the end there where Fraser was catching up to me, and then when I hit the wall, it was like, I'm going to throw it away again. But fortunately, I came back on the podium, and I have to say that's the biggest smile on my face coming across the line. That one meant more to me than the podium at Silverstone, I think, purely because it showed that I do have the longevity as well. It's not just I can quickly do it in the sprint races when it's wet. It's that I have the pace over the long run, which is what I wanted to see.
Oh, indeed. And I can hear it in your voice how happy you are with the result and the fact you've come away from this round with a big score, but also the fact that you've been able to prove to yourself how you're growing as a TCR racer. And next up, well, of course, we've got plenty more racing to come, but we return to our regular format in it's 2 weeks' time at Watkins Glen. What can we expect from you there?
Well, I'm hoping I can take some of this pace across. The car drives a lot better now, so I do think that just the advantage that the Elantra now has, I think is going to benefit me greatly in the championship. I just hope that, you know, this is the first time I've got inside the top 23. It's really annoying. It was an endurance race and not one where I could have been in part of the invert. So hopefully in one of the future races, I'll be part of that invert and can take full advantage by starting near the front and rubbing my elbows with the big boys.
Well, we'd definitely love to see that, and indeed see whether you can perhaps even go chasing after an overall top 10 finish. But just before we do let you go, Joseph, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast?
Honestly, I'd just like to thank everyone within the NXTGEN team because they've all been so welcoming and getting me involved and, you know, chatting to me through these races as well. And it's really hard sometimes when you do these hour-long races to stay focused, but having some people there just talking you through it all as well is great. So to all the NXTGEN boys out there, thank you.
Oh, brilliant. Well, I'm sure they'll appreciate the shout out. Joseph, it's been a blast. Congratulations on returning to the podium. A well-earned third in the AM class and the first top 23 of the season for yourself. Long may it continue at Watkins Glen in 2 weeks' time. But until then, my friend, have a wonderful rest of your evening.
Thank you, Paul. You too.
So here and there, ladies and gentlemen, for NXTGEN Blues, Joseph Wright. And we're very pleased with his performance today. Albeit his qualifying session in the end, putting together a decent lap, but still, what was he beholden to when we went racing? Well, a very impressive start there, and picking the right time to make his way past Pram Drives. Talking about there, opting to come in the pits as soon as the pit window was open, should the Prams in front of him not pit, because he felt as though he was losing time, and he made the right call. It enabled him to defeat the WS Racing Esports pair of Adrian and Marcel Fritsch on strategy, and therefore make his way into that third place, which almost fell apart when he ended up in contact with his teammate Fraser Ostens, but a bit of bittersweet moment, of course, was whilst he was able to beat his teammate, well, Fraser in the end picking up that damage, which saw him demoted from a top 5 finish all the way to the back end of what is into 6th place. But still, for Jose on a personal level, one of his best results of the season, his first top 23 as well, although ruin the fact it was not a reverse grid round today and what could have been. But still, Watkins Glen will be hoping to keep this momentum and keep pushing forward. And if so, well, the results could keep on coming. And could he finally start to mount a run of podiums, perhaps? We'll have to wait and see at Watkins Glen. But more interviews to come, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be back very shortly for our next interview. And so, ladies and gentlemen, it's my honour now to bring you, as we take a trip up the AM podium, it's another AM driver we're speaking to, but here we're going to be speaking to none other than Lewis Mason, who joins me now in the interview room. Lewis, good evening to you, and well, today, not quite the class win per se, but definitely part of a 1-2 for Full Tilty Motorsport, and a big result for you on a personal level, because it does mean now you move much closer to, if not into lead of the AM Championship.
Yeah, I mean, Bathurst really couldn't have gone much better for me apart from maybe getting the class win. I like to class it personally as a win because this is Mark's first round of the championship. So personally, I'd like to class it as a win, but I know the scoreboard reflects differently.
Well, to be fair, a personal win, no doubt about it for yourself, and being able to move forward very nicely with it. But let's put all the points aside for a moment. Obviously, updates to the TCRs, we've seen a complete overhaul of the machines. What's the one thing you found has been the biggest difference?
The rear end. I liked the way that the rear end stepped out more under braking. I've not enjoyed having to figure out brake bias. I got very used to the fact that you just rock up, whack it on. I think I was on 55.2, and then it'd drive really nice. Obviously, the update has meant that we've had to faff about with learning new brake biases and where it runs better for you, because everybody's different. Like, nobody runs the same brake bias, so it's just learning how the rear end steps out. I'm having to run the brake bias a lot more to the front to get the rotation that I like under braking, because I like it a lot more than others. And yeah, it's just the small things. It's just the small things.
Well, small changes there, but understandable ones at that. And then going into today itself, qualifying, we saw you take 25th on the grid, 4th in class. Were you happy with your qualifying performance?
No, I wasn't very happy with my qualifying performance at all. My practice lap was so much better than my quali lap. I think I did a 15.2 in practice, and then quali was a 16.2. But yeah, I just couldn't hook a lap together in quali with the 2 laps. I feel like if we had the normal qualifying format, I could have done it, but you never know. And obviously, I think I preferred the 2 laps anyway in qualifying around Bathurst, because an incident in qualifying could lead to you then starting at the back with not getting a lap in.
Oh, I see. Well, still getting the lap on the board, and to be fair, from that point onwards, it could only get better. Now, a bit of an interesting race start in the M class. We saw our front row of Mark Kent, i.e. your teammate, and Fraser Austin's both stall. Adrian Fritsch had a lightning start. And then for yourself, where were you in that? Because we saw you a bit further behind. I don't think you were able to get involved initially.
I got an even better start than Adrian, I'd like to believe. I got a really good start. I saw Fraser and Mark get an awful start. It was lights in the eyes moment. It was brilliant. Weaved my way past, who was it off the start? I think it might have been Sam Exton. So I got past Sam, got past Fraser, and then it was on the back of Mark, ready to try and close in on Mark and Adrian. It was a good start from my behalf.
Well, as Dan corrected, but to be fair, a great start for yourself. And then after that, we saw you continue to move forward. You moved into second, and with strategy, did you feel as though perhaps you could beat your teammate Mark with strategy, or was it one of those this started to look foregone before you got to the pit stops?
Well, on race start, I felt like I could have. We were about similar on pace. He had a toe in practice, so he was a little bit faster in practice, but we were similar on pace. And then Andy's crash down the hill, lap 1, caused a big checkup, and Mark braked more than I was expecting, and I went up the rear of him. And it was enough to give me wheel damage, but not enough to give me a meatball. So I drove it until the pit stops, but I ended up losing him by about 5 seconds, 6 seconds. So then by that point, I've lost the lead, and he's just pulling away. So I had to try and crawl it back, but it was never going to be.
Well, a bit unfortunate because it did, like you say, look as though you were getting closer until that happened. And even with the pit stops, you weren't quite able to bring the gap down. But as laps were gradually ticking away, we did see you make a bit more progress overall. And in the end, taking 15th. I mean, all things said and done, it looked as though you've been one of those drivers who've been able to conquer the mountain today.
Yeah, the mountain has very much been conquered. It was a pretty boring race after that. Obviously, trying to survive the damage, got past Adrian. But apart from that, I can't really remember much from the middle of it. It was a couple of crashes, got past them, didn't get any damage. I think Phil had a bit of a moment, got past him when he had damage. And it wasn't until literally the last couple of laps where I gained on Michael because he got a bit of damage near the end. And felt like I could have got past him, but yeah, it wasn't meant to be. It was a bit of a boring race in the middle for me.
All fair. Well, it might have been a bit of a boring race, but the flip side of the coin being sometimes boring means it's safe, and it's a safe result that moves you to the top of the AM Championship. Next up, Watkins Glen in 2 weeks' time. Can you maintain this momentum?
I am not sure, if I'll be frank. I don't mind Watkins. It's an alright track. Never driven it in a TCR, so that'll be good fun to find out. But yeah, I mean, I guess we'll wait and see. I wasn't very optimistic heading into Bathurst. I felt like my pace wasn't very good coming into Bathurst. The practice racing yesterday didn't really go as I was expecting. Car didn't feel very good, so I didn't think I was going to be anywhere near where I was in this race. But yeah, with where I'm going to be now after this one, eyes forward, focus on damage limitation and just trying to secure points.
Oh, I love it. I mean, you've definitely got the championship in your mind already. If anything, I dare say you're emulating Jamie Dory with his Colin Turkington-esque approach when he did take his first title all those many years ago. But just before we do let you go, Lewis, as always, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast?
Obviously, all the guys from Full Tilt. Ben Altry is really helpful with learning tracks, learning braking points, learning where you're going, sort of thing. Ben Gregory's always a really good teammate, always really helpful. He was very helpful with those couple of crashes, just calling it out because he was further ahead, being like a little spotter for us. It's always nice when we have Mark in VC as well. I really get on with Mark. Mark's really nice. Just all the guys from Full Tilt, all the people on the cars. Jamie's always really helpful as well. If I ever have any problems, Jamie's always really helpful. So just those guys and all the admins that make the league what it is, like yourself, Paul.
Oh, well, to be fair, Lewis, we absolutely love to see you on the grid round after round. You're doing a fantastic job out there providing us with entertainment, and we look forward to plenty more when we do get to Watkins in 2 weeks' time. But until then, congratulations on being our runner-up in the AM Class State and 15th overall, plus being part of the Full Tilt 1-2. We look forward to seeing whether you can continue it in the US of A. But until then, savour the result and have a great rest of your evening.
Thank you very much, Paul. You too.
So hearing there from Lewis Mason, ladies and gentlemen, and a very interesting interview with him there. And I do like the way he really talked about the fact, first, he wasn't too happy with the qualifying points given where he started, but also put it in context of the fact that getting a lap on the board is better than having no lap on the board. However, in the race, also mentioned having that lightning start, which in the end, whilst the headline was that Adrian Fritsch had a monster start, it was Lewis Mason who was on the back of all of them very quickly. However, with the altercation between some Pro-Am drivers, it meant that progress was stymied a little bit until he was able to finally get through it into second place, but was never quite able to catch up to his teammate Mark, given the incident that did happen over the mountain that caused everybody to check up. Nonetheless, a second place in the AM class in a race that became boring for him in the second stint. Well, sometimes scoring the points absolutely valuable. He will move to the top of the AM Championship, and now he's got to try and hold on, but not quite confident if he can do it at Watkins Glen. We'll have to wait and see. Can tell you one thing about Lewis, little by little he is moving forward in this championship, and I suspect right now if he maintains this momentum going into the second half in the US state of New York, he could definitely be the favourite by the time we get to rounds 8 and 9. But with that, we'll leave him be for now and let ourselves ponder on that thought as we get ready for another interview. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we come to our third interview of the evening, and joining me now in the interview room is one of our regulars, and to be fair, our pro driver today who found himself right in the thick of the fighting. It's Matthew Shurton for Aztec Racing. Matthew, good evening to you, and I'm going to put my money out there. This was a race today where things didn't quite go to plan, but you tried to do everything you can to recover some points out of this one.
Good evening, Suffolk. Yeah, pretty bland race with a little bit of seasoning, but you know, I think a bland race around Bathurst usually means the car comes home in one piece, so that's always priority number one. And then, to be fair, the race went as sort of as I expected. Really, we just didn't have the pace today, but that's all right. It's one race out of 10, so or like 30 in this case. So you know, still a good haul of points, and yeah, just onwards and forwards.
Oh, interesting you call it a bit of a bland race. I mean, let's break it down a little bit, because qualifying, 22nd overall, 14th in the Pro-Am class, if I'm correct. Not perhaps the best of qualifying points is, or was it because the Pro-Am class was just so closely matched?
It's a mixture of quite a few things. I think obviously, yeah, number one, the class always has been and still is extremely close, and in tenths and even hundreds will define maybe 2 to 3 positions, which is a crazy thought, but that's the way it is. I think for me as well, having the P1 Pro-Am weight, probably quite a little bit heavier than those in second and third, and then a lot heavier than those with no weight. So especially around a track like Bathurst with a lot of, you know, direction changes, a lot of inertia, especially at the top of the hill, that probably things. And I think as well, just personally, just lack of practice. I've been extremely busy, obviously juggling, you know, real life with stuff with Aztec, stuff with a new team that I've recently become part of, and the preparations for Sebring 12 this weekend. So yeah, time has not been on my side. So maybe could have done a bit more practice, but that's just life, unfortunately.
Indeed, that's just life. But to be fair, you're making the most of life by the sounds of things, and I'm happy for you that you're being kept so busy. But in the race itself then, I mean, after a couple of early incidents we saw for a few drivers, we saw you gradually making progress. I mean, how was the opening stint for yourself? Did you feel as though you made the progress you expected, or were some of the incidents real choke points for you? Because there was one over the mountain I think everybody had to react to, yourself included.
Yeah, and obviously, I mean, there's always a sort of in the back of the mind, especially on lap ones where everyone's so close. So, you know, you sort of think, you know, be prepared for something to happen, especially like a track like this. And it did. Obviously, we had one at the first hairpin in the mountain, but luckily he sort of got pushed towards the edge, so it didn't really affect me that much. But then, yeah, the checkup, obviously coming down Skyline. Luckily, because it's a downhill, I saw it all happening, so I was very well prepared for it. And luckily, the driver involved in the incident sort of parked to the side, so he sort of allowed a clear path for all of us to get through, so that was fine. But yeah, the rest of it, I was just, again, main priority is just don't get involved in something that could put you in the barrier. There's not a lot of room for error here, and you know, just to walk away with points is a lot better than to walk away with no points. So obviously, I was at the back of Ben, Alan, Michael for most of it, but then yeah, if we kept sort of juggling positions, you know, one would make a mistake, the other would go through, maybe one had a bit more pace and then would get me back. So yeah, just always just having a bit of fun, but then just keeping in mind to play it safe and actually bring it home in the end.
All fair, and just in all of that, of course, I mean, playing it safe was one part. We did see you form part of the quartet of Pro-Am drivers at the end of the battle for 6th, and looked as though you really wanted to get your elbows out there against likes of Michael Leese and also Craig Twardock. But as you mentioned there, a bit of a perhaps look after the car, but surely the temptation was there to get more and more involved.
Oh yeah, at the end there, yeah, the book of old Matt Shervin came to play there. So you know, it was at that point, you know, I'd done enough laps, I understood the car, because obviously, new tyre model, new physics model. Despite the fact I've driven a lot of touring cars since the update, they've all been in that new Audi. So I think tonight was the first proper time I've had to go in my actual car. So it was actually trying to get used to it and not just swap ends coming down into a braking zone. So yeah, so once I got used to it, the car suddenly found pace near the end of that second and final stint. And obviously we were all sort of bottlenecking each other, having everyone fighting everybody. So I thought, let's just get involved, let's have a bit of fun. And yeah, it paid off. Obviously we got Alan and got in another spot. Obviously Michael made a mistake into the chase, which then brought me back right behind him, and then had a little minor drama moment, but it was all good. And then yeah, I sort of got him into turn one, and I know Alan and Michael had a fight, which was good for me because it just put a massive gap between me and them. And yeah, then I think the last 2 to 3 laps I was just playing Billy No Mate, so I was just like, let's just play it safe, bring it home, get a nice haul of points, and then move on to the next round.
And, well, with this result, of course, 7th place, some good points being brought home today, and it does mean now you head to Watkins Glen. Still, I do believe championship leader, if not close to the championship lead in the Pram class. And what's the plan now in terms of, can you make it another podium at Watkins?
I hope so. I mean, if memory serves correct, the last time we did Watkins Glen in this series, I ended up on my roof coming up to the top of the hill after the first turn. So hopefully the outcome will be a lot different to that one. We actually finished with the car on 4 wheels instead of on its lid. So, but other than that, I think strategy will be the same. Like, I'm just gonna, I'm gonna drive the car. I'm just gonna see what happens. If other people wanna get into instance and give me a few positions, I will take that gladly. But yeah, we'll drive the car. If we have the pace, we'll go for it. For a bit behind leaders, we'll just try and collect as many points as we can, because at the end of the day, it's 10 rounds, goes almost half a year of racing, and at the end, it's the person with the most points that wins, not who won the most races.
All fair play. I do love the way you're sort of taking a bigger picture look rather than a race by race, and I could definitely feel that experience of you taking the championship last season is really playing a big part of it. So I do have to, of course, wonder, is that how you've perhaps changed your approach then going into this season? Now that you've got one title under your belt, you're taking a bit more of a backseat view and thinking, you know what, I don't have to do every fight anymore.
Yeah, I think that's been the idea. Like I say, I won the last season, and yeah, I was glad about that. And I think, to be fair, that season just actually in the fight for it overall changed the mindset there, and you're just like, where I used to sort of be race by race, sort of go for it at all costs. This one was like, actually, if you play it smart and just keep getting points, you actually win this. So, yeah, I think last season changed the mindset, and then yeah, I've just followed it on to this one, and then yeah, knowing I've actually won one, like I've done what I've wanted to do for God almighty best part of almost 3 years now. Good lord. Yes, I've just a lot more relaxed, just enjoying it a lot more, having a bit more fun, and yeah, it's just sort of rejuvenates me a little bit, and I'm really quite fond of that at the moment.
Oh, brilliant. Well, I'm glad to hear you're experiencing that rejuvenation. And just as we get ready to let you go, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to on the broadcast?
Yeah, obviously shout out to the team, Aztec Racing and affiliated partners for making a very pretty car. Thank you to anyone who tuned in to support me. I know I put a little feeler out there earlier, so anybody turn in, thank you very much. And of course, always thank you to the NXTGEN staff putting this on, and yourself, Paul, for providing a fantastic broadcast this evening.
Well, thank you likewise to yourself, Matthew, for joining me for an interview. It's always good to catch up, and we look forward to seeing what you'll be able to bring to the table next time out in round number 6 at Watkins Glen. But until then, congratulations on fighting your way through to a solid 7th, and we will see you in the next round.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
You too. So hearing there from Matthew Sheraton, a bit exhausted perhaps by today, having to play things relatively safe and smart, but to be fair, you can definitely hear it how he's matured as seasons have gone on after bringing home that title. Really now thinking about the bigger picture, which is you don't win a championship on wins, you win it on points. Although a win may help you score the points, His game plan is all about making sure you pick up those points every step of the way. And realising that today, of course, with the change to the TCR machines, he was always going to be battling uphill with a lot of his practice going into the new Audi RS3 Gen 2 car, not his actual car, the Hyundai Veloster. However, getting himself dialed into the car, and 9, he's got the leader success ballast in there as well, which is the best part of 35 kilograms, and therefore 9, this was not going to be easy at a circuit where power and corner exit speed are going to be critical, something that success ballast takes away. But still, playing it safe and halving his way to the front of the field, going from 14th to 7th in the Pram class. A good score, but he's hoping for plenty more at Watkins Glen, and we look forward to seeing what Cheverton can bring to the table there. But speaking of bringing things to the table, ladies and gentlemen, we've got one more interview for you to feast on this evening, and we'll be back very shortly for our final interview of the evening. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we wrap up our interviews in the Pro-Am class, and we're going to be hearing from none other than Stuart Winus, who now gets ready to join me in the interview room. And in fact, just bring a brief moment, because he did offer an interview. I think he's been waylaid by some of the admin team members who's having a conversation with, but I do believe now we're going to get a word with Stuart Winus. And in fact, he joins me now in the interview room. Good evening to you, Stuart. And, well, what an intriguing day for yourself and Track Scotland today. 4th in the Pram class, just behind your teammate of Kieran. But, I mean, the two of you are practically joined at the hip throughout the entire race.
Yeah, evening guys, evening Paul. Yeah, it was quite a good race. I just felt like my Honda didn't have the straight line speed to get past Jamie or to hold off Kieran in that race. But we're happy enough to get 3 and 4 in the Pro-Am points there in the race.
Well, a big score for yourself and the team, but dialing it all the way back to the start of the day. This Honda, we know it's been one of those cars that's very corner capable, very bold on the brakes. How's it been having to relearn the Honda since the update?
Yeah, it's a little bit different. Obviously, I'm still getting used to driving the Honda since I jumped over to drive for the Machia from the Elantra. So yeah, I'm still getting used to it. I'm still not quick. I think I was saying to Kieran, if I was still in the Elantra, maybe I'd beaten him tonight and maybe got in amongst the top 2 of the Pro-Ams, but you never know. You've just got to change, and I was just taking a dive on the car to see how it goes this year.
Oh, well, fair point. And going into today's race then, of course, qualifying, so you start in 6th or 3rd in class. Were you surprised at your qualifying points, or is that where you expected to be?
A little bit surprised. Surprised to be in front of Kieran because he was actually quite quick. Clearly, he just didn't hook up a good lap, and I got a good first lap, and then made a mistake at Forest Elbow in the second lap and lost all the time. So I was like, well, I'll start where I start. And 6 was, I was happy with that. I was in the top 6. I was delighted.
Well, a delightful qualifying lap. And then when we did see you go green flag racing, I mean, the early stage of the race seemed to really boil around yourself and Kieran being quite close, working together. But there's always one constant denominator, Jamie Dory. It looks like your race was destined to be against him.
Yeah, I was trying to keep with the front guys, and I was like, right, but I could see they were just a little bit here and there. They were quicker than me, and yeah, Jamie just caught me. So I thought, right, I'll let Jamie go, maybe tag onto Jamie, and he might pull us back towards him. But no, it just didn't happen. Then Kieran caught us, and it's like, oh well, it's gonna be a 3-way, and then Kieran finally got by, and then finally got past Jamie, and I'm like, well, I've not caught any of them, so they've gone. So, but it was good to have a good battle.
Well, it was a fantastic battle, although obviously it was between yourself, him, and your teammate Kieran. But the number 1 rule of motorsport is beat your teammate. The number 2 rule is don't take your teammate out. There were a few moments where I think the two of you almost came close to blows.
Yeah, there was a touch when me and Jamie passed each other at the end of the first lap, the first corner, and Jamie got the run up the hill, and Kieran went with him. Yeah, I did hit the back of Kieran on the brakes into the next corner. I was like, oh, sorry. He's like, Jesus, what are you doing? But I knew he was quicker than me, so I was like, down the back, down the hill. I was like, you go, because you're quicker than me, so I'll let you go.
Oh, fair play. Bit of a scary moment, that one, although I can imagine how that would be basically how he describes it now. But good on you for giving up the place to Kieran in the end. And as the race already came towards a close, we saw, whilst you're able to stay close to Jamie, you weren't able to find a way past. Was it just the pace of his Audi compared to your Honda?
a little bit to me. I felt like I just couldn't get alongside him down the straights. I don't know if it's me coming out of the corners wrong with the Honda, or it's not the quickest in a straight line. And we know that Audi's quick. Even I think the new one's still as quick as the old one. You could get in the toe and get with him, but then as you pulled out, the Audi just kept going, and you were just stuck there. I found myself tonight.
Well, it couldn't quite move forward, but in the end, it's still a very solid 8th place overall, 4th in class. There's some big points coming your way, and something tells me right now, yourself and Kieran are probably believing, actually, this Pro-Am Championship is very much well and truly still on.
Yeah, I think so. If we can keep doing what we did tonight and the next couple of rounds, yeah, I think we're back in the hunt. You never know. You can try and keep getting decent points the next couple of rounds and see where we end up near the end of the season.
Well, and speaking of next couple of rounds, next up we head to Watkins Glen for round number 6. What's the game plan there?
Go as fast as we can.
Love it. I absolutely love it. Is it a circuit that you enjoy, though?
It's been a while since I've been on it, so I'll need to definitely do some laps on it to figure out what we can do and where we can be quick in the Honda. I do think the Elantra at the moment is the quickest car now, and I wish I did have the Elantra back, but I'll stick with the Honda and see how we get on with it.
All fair play. I love the fact you're sticking to your guns, even if the Elantra does seem to be a little bit quicker, like you say, as we have seen today. It's just had the slight edge, perhaps, but still. And time will tell at Watkins Glen. But just before I do let you go, Stuart, is there anyone you'd like to give a mention or a shout out to on the broadcast?
I'll give a shout to Track Scotland team fans. They're always cheering us on if we can get them to see us watch. And then also just everybody else who's watching the stream, because you guys are just doing a fantastic job every week we get these streams out.
Well, it's an absolute pleasure, Stuart, and it's an absolute joy to have you join me in the interview room. Well done today on 4th place of the Pro-Am class. Not able to beat your teammate, perhaps, but able to avoid sending your teammate to the barriers in the end, although a very close moment. Brilliant fighting, no doubt about it, at Bathurst, and we look forward to plenty more at Watkins Glen 2 weeks from now. But until then, save the result and have a great rest of your evening.
See you later, Paul. Cheers, thanks.
So here in there, ladies and gentlemen, from our final interview of the day, none other than Stuart Witvoet there, and talking about, of course, what was firstly been quite happy with his qualifying points, if not surprised himself, but not in terms of where he himself qualified, but more surprised at the fact he out-qualified his teammate Kieran, given the fact he felt Kieran was the faster driver. So it's interesting there, they both felt like they had the pace to be at the front, but in the end, it's just a bit of a shock that he was able to out-qualify Kieran, most likely because Kieran didn't quite get it together on the 2 laps. But then, flipping things forward into the race, we did see their races really tied around each other, and also Jamie Dory, and then talking about the fact where it was on strategy on the road, he wasn't quite able to find his way past the NXTGEN Pink driver, as the pictures currently do show, although there was that big near miss moment between himself and his own teammate going in towards Griffin's Bend, and well, that almost cost him the chance of double points in the Pro-Am class and also in the overall team's championship. But still, a 4th place there, and as he mentioned, if they can keep up this performance, then Track Scotland, both of their drives, are most certainly going to be right back in the thick of the Pro-Am championship title fight all the way towards the very end of the season. But Watkins Glen is up next, and they definitely have the car that may not be the quickest in the hands of Stuart Witvoet. It's the Honda there, and it does seem as though they're feeling as though the Elantra is the car to go to, but he's going to stick it out and see what he can do there in the US of A. And we look forward to seeing how far he can come forward in 2 weeks' time. With that, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our interviews for this evening. And let's give you a quick recap of who exactly we've spoken to and give them all one last shout out. And as we can see throughout tonight, we started off with Joseph Wright for NXTGEN Blue in the AM class, with his return to the podium. And then we spoke to Lewis Mason, a fellow AM driver for Full Tilt V Motorsport, our AM class driver, who made it onto the 2nd step of the podium after a strong start. And then we came to the Pro-Am class, started with Matthew Sheraton, who played it smart and played it safe as our championship leader in the class coming into today, before then coming to Stuart Witvoet and, well, the Track Scotland driver, and talking to us just now about the fact that in the end his race really tied round battling with his teammate and also Jamie Dory, but unfortunately couldn't quite get the upper hand in the trio. Well done to all 4 of our drivers for their brilliant performances today, and a big thank you to them all for joining me in the interview room. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, it's now time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed today's show, and perhaps you're sat there right now wanting to know more about the Next Gen Racing community and how you can potentially be on the grid for future rounds of the NXTCC or future seasons of racing, because we're not just about touring cars here, we do race multiple disciplines. Well, for all that and more, we definitely recommend you go to our official website, and that may be found at www.nextgenracing.co.uk, appearing on screen right now. And as you can see, we are the home of clean and fair sim racing for all, and have been hosting leagues for over 17 years now, almost in our 18th year. We'd love to see you on the grid, whether you're a rookie all the way through to an esports professional. Indeed, you don't need to be absolutely huge and accomplished about to race on the Next Gen Racing grid. All you've got to do is have a spirit inside you that says that you want to enjoy fair and clean racing, and well, you're more than welcome to join us on the grid. And on our website, of course, you've got all the information of our ongoing and upcoming series, and also the ability to join our official Discord, which is the beating heart of the community. But if you don't want to necessarily go to our website, you can, of course, follow us on Facebook. That's the number one place to follow us. And there's a Facebook group of facebook.com/groups/NextGen Racing. And there you can find out a little bit more about the guys and girls behind the scenes who make up the Next Gen Racing team, whether the admin members, the staff, or the drivers. And it's not just in terms of what they do on the simulator, but what they also do on the real life circuit, with several of us being real life racing drivers, if not stewards and marshals. We'd also like to take a moment to say a big thank you to our sponsors, without whom this would not be possible, including PowerMax, Next Level Racing, Mark Sykes Designs, Joyce Design, Douglas Motorsport, Sam Cases UK, Falcon PC Built and Support, Benji Sim Photos, and lastly, of course, our title sponsor, Doble Motorcycles. And if you are looking to buy your next two-wheeled machine or ATV, why not consider Doble Motorcycles, the home to an expansive full range of Honda motorcycles, scooters, off-road bikes, and ATVs, the leading Honda motorcycle dealer in the UK. And indeed, if you want to be in pole position to receive a machine that is powered by the power of dreams, then go no further than Doble Motorcycles, and do be sure to check out their website today at doble.co.uk. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we now look ahead to next time, and well, after an extended mid-season break, we will be back, and there's no more breaks beyond our regular 2-week windows, as in 2 weeks time, save the date, because round number 6 will see us make our way back to US of A, and it's to the mecca of road racing in the country that we'll be seeing our drives roar the way around the Watkins Glen International Cup course. And there, what exactly can we expect at the high-speed, high-stakes circuit? We'll tune on Tuesday the 7th of April 2026 to find out, because at the moment, at least in the overall championship, nobody apart from Wojciech Swirydowicz seems to be able to keep tabs on Luciano Witvoet, who is absolutely storming away at the top. In the Pro-Am class, Matthew Sheridan may not score big today, and therefore will be under a bit of pressure as Pro-Am rivals rising up against him, but still the Pro-Am class is definitely looking very healthy in the fight. And the same can be said in the AM class, as George Stone struggles today, and Marcel Fritsch achieving a decent top 5, and with Lewis Mason finishing second, when it's all to play for and it's been blown wide open. But we will see how wide open it is when we do head to Watkins Glen. But until then, we have been Next Gen Racing. I've been your host and commentator, Paul Walsh. And well, until next time, ladies and gentlemen, as always, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and most importantly, remember to stay on track. Good night. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time, that's all from us here at Next Gen Racing, the home of clean and fair sim racing for all.